Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Today is Avengers Assemble. This is the third episode. We did Avengers 150. That's where we started. 151, and now we're up to 152. Now it's starting to pick up. The first two issues, I just did them because I had to start at a nice round number because I got problems that way. So 150, and we are, you're going to see some of the best Avengers comics ever made. It started to pick up. 150 was kind of a lame issue. 151 wasn't that much better. It was one of those Avengers. We're gonna clip everything. Give me. It's a good idea for a monthly comic. Every once in a while, you got to refresh the readers of what happened before. If you're gonna do a continuity, whereas everything builds on it, you got to let people understand the past. So back then, comics were cheap. 30 cents was affordable even for kids, so you could afford a month or two every couple of years, just letting the newbies understand the lore. And that's what issue 50 and 51 were. Now we're getting and now we're getting stories based on the lore and creating new lore going forward. You're gonna see it's like a rocket ship. The smoke was building, pressure was building, and now it's starting off slowly, and it's just going to accelerate into the stratosphere. This really is such a good run of comics. Oh God, just so good. But before we begin, let's check out the chat, because it's the chat while we're here, right? I can talk about comics, but it's not fun if there's not people here interacting with me. So first off, we got Heroic Tales 2. That's still available on Fund My Comic. That's my only active campaign right now. It's been fulfilled. I have 2 fulfilled campaigns. I think I did pretty good for a newbie. I'm talking about staying in my time constraints. You know what I mean? I didn't hear anybody complain about late books or anything like that, and I'm pretty proud of the books. So, and now I challenged myself, and I talked to Renzo to see if it was possible, if we could do a short comic in time for Christmas. I'd like to do Christmas specials. I have 3 Christmas specials planned. One's going to come out this year. I'm hoping one comes out next year, and then the following, the third year. That's all I have planned right now. But in 3 years, if it works, I'll probably have 4 Christmas specials. But this one, Renzo's like, yeah, I could do a 16-page story. So I panicked a little bit because the Patriarch 2 is a 45-page comic. So I was like, let's put that on hold. Let's get these 16 pages done, go back to the Patriarch, and let's get this done in time for Christmas. So that's what's going on. That's the, everything. So that's my goal. I'm going to launch this campaign. It's going to be a stripped down campaign. There's going to be just the comic, and then one, I can't wait to tell you guys about the add-on. It's going to be great. Oh man, I hope it's expensive. It's going to be a little expensive, but I hope people like it and want it. I know there's going to be 2 sales, me and Darnell Quigley. So whatever. I think it's going to be limited to like 10 or so. But anyway, that's going to be that campaign. And I'll probably have to go with a Critical Blast to get it fulfilled on time. So that should be fun. Just send everything over there to RJ. Let him deal with it. You know what I mean? Get it in your hands super quick. But that's the goal. If it doesn't do too well, then I'll fulfill it myself. But anyway, let's check out the chat. We got Genuine Comics, Dave Brink. John, good morning to you. Hello, chat. Yeah, Dave, he's killing it over there with Genuine Comics, Perfect 10 collection. Can't wait for Safeguard. Please do yourself a favor. If you're here right now, it's because in some way, shape, or form, you like good comics. And right now, and if you're like me, and you're like a couple of us in the chat, you're a little disillusioned with what the mainstream has to offer you. Here is the alternative right here. Genuine Comics. Go to genuinecomics.com. Go to Kickstarter right now. Check out the Perfect 10 collection. Get his back issues. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's good superhero fun. I made it. Hey, OmniPro. Avengers Assemble. Good to see you. Good to see you. Marcus is here. Marcus, could you put Dave Brink's links in the chat, please? Or Zach Tan? I forgot that. You're in it, Mod. Put your links in the chat, Dave. I got no problems with that. I got no problems with that. I am having a blessed day. I am having a blessed day. It's going to be a good week. Last night I had a fun. It's clobbering time. It's good to see everybody. I'm back to a normal schedule. I feel like a part of society again instead of like a undead lurker in the middle of the night. So that's good. Woke up on my own, had some coffee for a while, played a little bit of Civilization, talked to a friend. That's a blessed day. What else is there? Now I'm talking about comic books, and my wife's church is having an empanada party at 5. So they are a bunch of sweet people. So I'm going to go have a conversation with some nice people and eat empanadas. You're going to tell me that's not a blessed day? Can you think of anything more blessed? Zach Tad says he's excited. May I ask what exactly you're excited for? Excited for empanadas? Excited for this comic? Excited for the Christmas special? I'm just curious. Just curious. There we go. We got Grab Yourself, The Perfect Collection. And there you go. The Perfect Collection. There you go. There you go. Check it out. Check it out. Check it out. You could get the floppy comics. You could get a soft cover collection. And I think you could get a hardcover. Oh, the Christmas special. Yeah. So a little bit about the Christmas special. It's King Fu. Blue Christmas is the first story. 16 pages. Solo King Fu story. I love the character of King Fu, and I didn't know if people were going to like him because he's kind of a wacky concept. King Fu is the world's greatest martial artist and Elvis impersonator. His real name is Kenny Kim. He was a U.S. Marine. I didn't tell his origin, but I kind of spoiled it anyway, not that it was a secret. But he volunteered for Project Red Cape, a project by the government to give people superpowers. So yes, he is physically stronger, physically faster, more mentally resilient than ever. He's a super being. He's like a super soldier who, and because of his super soldiers, he's the greatest martial artist. Just imagine if Captain America would, I assume, be the greatest. I assume Captain America would beat Bruce Lee in a fight, and that's what he did. And he always loved Elvis. So King Fu, and his name came up as an accident one day. We were all sitting playing role-playing games, and somebody said something King Fu. I forget the exact circumstances, and I replied, somebody said Kung Fu. I'm going to use, and I said King Fu, and he said no, Kung Fu, and I went, oh, okay, and I said that's what, because King Fu would be an Elvis martial artist, and then I was just like, I didn't say anything because I didn't want, and then next session King Fu showed up. That was like 15 years ago, so King Fu has always been a part of my role-playing game, and I just threw him in basically a cameo, like a one panel in actually 2 panels in issue, and everybody was like asking about this guy. Everybody was asking about. I was like, oh wow, they like him. They like him. So strike while the iron's hot. Just make it a special. So the story is, he gets asked. They find out that there's still a soldier, missing soldier in Vietnam from the Vietnam War. I don't want to give away too many details, and they ask him, you're a metahuman, you're a superhero, and a Marine. You are the perfect person to go and rescue this guy. And due to circumstances, he can only be rescued on Christmas. So there you go. That's Blue Christmas. And then I was like, 16 pages is not fair. Not fair to ask people, because the minimum price is I can't go any cheaper than $10 for printing and shipping and everything like that. So I was like, that's not fair. So you got a stretch goal before the campaign even launched. So, and I think it's going to be the only stretch goal. Like I said, this is going to be a streamlined campaign. So I did a 6-page backup story called Christmas Magic, and it's how the Patriarch's family celebrates Christmas. And it explains the age-old mystery of not only how does Santa Claus get everywhere on Christmas night, but how come, let's face it, not everybody gets a visit from Santa Claus. And it's getting rarer and rarer why everybody gets a visit from Santa Claus. The only thing I tried to put this in, but it just felt awkward and forced. But like, Santa Claus doesn't give out electronics and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, so that was like a whole awkward page. So I deleted that page. Maybe it'll show up in the deleted scenes someday. So, and it's going to be a flip book. And I'm trying out a new artist. She got the script. I sent her all the references. I sent her the 2 files for my comics so she could see what the characters look like. She has some background information that nobody else knows except for Renzo about the patriarch and his family, so that, you know, she could include it in subtle details that described. But she has like a manga-esque look. I'm trying to... what's the Oving? Michael Avon Oming. So if you took Mike Mignola and Michael Avon Oming, that's kind of what her style looks like. So I'm real curious. I haven't seen any, you know, she only got the script a couple of days ago. So I'm waiting for some roughs and everything like that. So we'll see how that works out. And if she works out, she's gonna get a full-on a super team. The super team that I have like an X-Men group of people with like bad powers and bad personalities, and they, you know, unfortunate abilities. They were going to be called the Misfits, but every time I told other people about the Misfits, they talked about Glenn Danzig. So I was like, okay, so I'm changing the name to the Rejects, and I'm kind of toying with the idea of putting an X in it, you know, Rejects. But that's going to be, you know, my Misfit superhero teams, and I can't wait because it's supposed to be a little bit more playful. And then I have right after we're done with this, I'm going to continue writing a script that Oscar Carano, my colorist, he's going to be the artist, and he's going to be the colorist for this. I can't wait. I don't know about you guys, but Dave, what do you think? You're the perfect person to. You're the perfect person to ask this question, Dave. So this is going specifically to you. When you get a story idea, what do you do? Like, do you put it on a list and write it when? Because when I get started, I have to write it. Like, okay, like right now I have 2 stories that are vying. This one has to come out, and this one has to come out. So the only thing to do is just I'm going to pick one of them and write it, get it out of my system, and then write the other one, get it out. But they are not scheduled for years. You know what I mean? But I have to get them out of my mind because I kind of get obsessed with the story, and you know, I got to blast it out. What do you do? Are you more of a normal person that just like, I could put this away and file it for when I need it? But anyway, so I'm just curious. Santa doesn't have internet, so he doesn't know what most of the kids are asking for these days. I don't want to spoil it, but there's kind of a reason why Santa doesn't deal with electronics and stuff like that. I hope I took out the express, like, you know, I don't do this because there's this, you know, the Chris Claremont just over the top explanation page, you know, because it was just awkward and I couldn't figure it out. But I think if you read it and you get where I'm going, you'll understand why there's no electronics. But if once the comic comes out, if anybody doesn't understand why there's no electronics, I'll just tell you. This is interesting. What to do with good people who get evil coded power, especially since the powers in your world are affected by. Yes. Like I said, I'm going to call them unfortunate powers. You know, because the Charles Xavier kind of guy, the leader of the team, he's introduced in Patriarch #1. He's a good guy. He's a real good guy who really wants to help. But I think he's a little naive in the fact that, like, maybe he sees too much good in people. And the less said, the better. The less said, the better. We'll get to him. We'll get to it. Okay, so, and you get a low. I love every one of the characters in the Rejects. I love every one of the characters in the Rejects. Some of them you've seen already. If you got Heroic Tales 2, there was a big panel of characters. I think I think one of them is going to be the field. He's going to be the Cyclops of the Rejects, and that's an obvious clue. If you go back and you could figure it out. I also have 3 stories for the Meta League. They are like the Avengers of my world. You know, I got to turn this down. There's so much noise right now. My iPad, I finally got an update. I have a really old iPad and it just stopped working because it needed an update and it couldn't handle the update. So I just put it in my drawer, and it's been in my drawer for like a year or so. And then I read online that you could plug your iPad into your computer, and there's a Apple app that you could download, and it'll and now it works again. But now I got to change the settings on it, so it's beeping. So I turn it down, and my next door neighbors are drilling into their concrete basement, and it's traveling through the ground. So throughout this video, I'm sure you're going to hear. Brrr. That's not me. That's my neighbors doing home repairs. They updated their house, and I live in one of the highest parts of Long Island, so my wife and I are like really concerned about natural disasters, maybe borderline paranoid. So like now that we're planning retirement, we're like, there can't be natural disasters, no hurricanes, no tornadoes. And it's surprisingly how limited like it is. Like New York gets hurricanes, but for the past 15 years, I lived in the highest point of Queens, and now I live in the highest point of Long Island. So there's no floods. But the next door neighbors, they dug out, they turned their basement into an apartment, and they made steps with no drainage. That whole freaking thing just filled up and flooded their basement due to their own incompetence of their engineering. You know what I mean? So they're repairing that. I think they're building some sort of drainage or something like that, some sort of sump pump, which they need to do. So I don't begrudge them. Genuine Comics says, if I'm at home and I get an idea, I write it down immediately. When I'm elsewhere, I can't stop thinking about it. My girl tells me to stop being distant, so I write a note on my phone. Yeah, if I'm at work and I get a good idea, I will. This is gonna sound morbid, but I have I DM a lot of people, like Marcus, I DM, Genuine Comics, I DM and stuff like that. I got some people just stopped responding, so I send them DMs of ideas for comics. I don't know if they died. I don't know if they lost their Twitter profile. So it's funny, like one of my high school friends, he's got like 4 years of comic book ideas because without getting too much details, I think he was a drug addict and I think he passed on. So he gets it's like a one-sided conversation. This is a good idea for us to comic. And if he is listening to it, if he is there and he's like, what's wrong with John? So, that's what I do. Because Twitter, for whatever reason, it's the easiest for me to navigate. Like two artists that one of them, Aaron Sparrow, recommended to me. She only had email. And she had a Twitter that she didn't use. I was like, going back and forth with Twitter, with emails, things get lost and I get confused, and we were both starting to get confused. So I said, let's just go on Twitter. It keeps everything nice, and you can easily follow it all. And now we're not confused. And now this new artist, another woman, she emailed me, and now we're also communicating. So I Twitter is my preferred communication next to telephone texts. But I'm not going to ask two new girls for their telephone numbers. That's creepy. You know what I mean? I understand, respect the boundaries. So, but you can tell my coffee kicked in, and I had a good night's sleep, and it's a good day. I'm already rambling. Last ramble before we get into the comic is I'm working on a story that's been in my head for 20 years. It's not a superhero story. The only way to describe it is it would be, if it was a movie, it would be a low budget Quentin Tarantino movie. Violence, it's blue collar workers, so of course it's electricians that just get caught up in violence. So I've been thinking about this, and I had the beginning, the middle, and kind of the end for a long time. And all of a sudden, just yesterday, I was like, oh, it's so simple. So that story, I want to write out the first draft, and then like all I could think of is like Chuck Dixon would love this story. Chuck Dixon would love, because it's just blue collar workers, no superheroes, no magic, no spaceships. It's just a true crime kind of thing. So so I'm going to call it a Chuck Dixon type story. So and then the funny thing happened was I was all excited about that. And I just started telling my foreman, who's just a normie guy. concerned about work, and he's like, "Oh, so you write comics?" He's like, "Oh, my daughter's into comics," and we just started talking about comics, and then I just started telling him the other idea I had in my head, uh, a science fiction story that's not for me. It's for Matt Barr. Matt Barr. I always say his name wrong, and then he gets mad at me. But it's for Matt. He told me that he's working on a science fiction magazine, and it's a high concept. And he started explaining the concept to me, and I was like, "Yeah, give me some time. I'll think of a story." He goes, do you want?" He goes, "These are the concepts." He goes, "Your concept." He goes, "I got all these other concepts fulfilled. The only concept is control." I said, "Oh, so the story has to have." So I just immediately started saying, "How about this?" And he goes, "You got it. You got it. That's exactly it." And I don't want to tell you the name of the story or anything like that. So I was telling that story to my foreman. I said, "So I have this premise. This is the setup. This is the middle, but I don't know how it ends." And then he just went, "Oh, simple. It's this." And I was like, "No, but you're not listening to." And then I was like, "Oh my God, that's perfect. That is perfect." So I was like, so now I have these three stories that are just like horses in my head right now. So I you know, I don't know. I just got to just write this whole weekend, and it's good because no overtime. This is like my first weekend, full weekend off in months. I've been working Saturdays and Sundays, just Sundays. So this is the first weekend I have two full set. And here's the kicker: I'm going to work Sunday night. I got to be at work at 11 p.m. Sunday night to be standby. So this guy's working, and they use power tools. Whatever this power tools is, got to be an electrician. So I got to go to work and make sure that these guys have power. So if they blow a circuit, I got to go in and repair it. But they've been doing it for a year, and they said they've never blown a circuit. Watch, go figure. There'll be an explosion and a fire when I'm there. So I'm bringing my laptop, and I'm going to be typing out my stories and getting paid time and a half. Shh, don't tell anybody. But sometimes ideas keep coming. I'm standing in the middle of a supermarket staring at my imagination. Yes. It's fun, though. I wonder how many ideas I've had that were like, "This is brilliant," that I can't remember anymore. I tend to talk. Yes, I'll tell it to my wife. Like, I'll just say it out loud to her, and it freaks her out sometimes. Like, I'm obviously not talking to her, but I'm talking to her. I have a thing where I need to say it out loud. If I say it out loud, I remember it better. And it's kind of annoying at work. I know I'm annoying. I absolutely know I'm an asshole, and I absolutely know I'm annoying. Most of the time, it's not on purpose. Most of the time. But like, a foreman will give me directions, and then he'll start to walk away, and I go, "Don't walk away." And then I repeat everything. It's just one of my quirky habits. And I say, "So, okay, just listen to this." And I repeat everything. And I kind of use hand signals too, because I'm Italian. And, and he's like, "Yes." I go, "Thank you." By the third and fourth time I do that, he catches. I said, I need to say it out loud for two reasons. Say it out loud makes me remember it. And also, I'm letting you know this is what I think I have to do. So when you come back in 4 days and say it's wrong, I could say, "But I told you what I was going to do, and you okayed it." You know what I mean? Like, Dave understands. Dave, here's the script. The guy sends you layouts. You go, "Okay, here's the layouts." And then he draws it. "That's not what I asked you to do. You okayed the layouts." I mean, when I repeat things, that's verbal layouts. Forgetting ideas is the worst. I'm with you. Maybe the Holocaust is worse. Maybe. But forgetting ideas is up there with the Holocaust. Yeah, Marcus understands. Marcus is another one who gets just strange messages every once in a while. So Marcus knows what I'm talking about. He's probably laughing right now. That's coffee, so good. Good coffee. Caffeinated John is the best guy. Thank you. I got to say, I quit coffee for a while, and I quit. Like, I don't drink regular soda anymore. I drink Diet Coke, which is probably worse, but I'm addicted to my caffeine, and I can't drink coffee. Has to be hot. I can't drink cold coffee. So, like, if it's too hot out, I'll drink Diet Coke, and if it's too cold out, I'll drink coffee. I like my caffeine, but I went cold turkey, man, and I got bad headaches. So I don't have many vices in my life. So Diet Coke and coffee. That foreman needs writer credit. Yeah, Mike. I told him that, and you know what he said? Give me a comic book when it comes out, which it'll be years from now, if ever. But yes, yes, uh, yeah. I will mention, I Marcus gave me a really good compliment. He says that I'm good with giving the artists and colorists and letterers credit, and I was like, "Oh, thank you." First off, accept the compliment. I'm a weird person. I don't like compliments. They kind of freak me out. But I was like, "Thank you, Marcus. That was a nice compliment." And then I got a little sad. I'm like, "Do other people not do that? Isn't that the way it's supposed to be? Isn't it supposed to be a fun game, a fun exercise, a fun creative thing? You give everybody credit. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, everybody's involved. If you know, give everybody credit. I'm on a roll. Thank you, thank you. All right, so let's going forward. I'm gonna. Somebody, I thought I turned down the sound. If that beeping bothers you, I guess I could turn off the iPad. There we go. Simple ideas. There we go. All right, it's off. Let's check out the comic now. So this is Avengers 152. I forget the year. We'll find out the year when I open up the book. 30 cents. Jeez, look at that. So if you remember the cliffhanger last week, Wonder Man showed up. Dun, dun, dun. And this is literally, I can't say literally without thinking of Parks and Recreation. This is literally the first time Wonder Man's shown up since Avengers number 9. So 143 issues, usually a month. I don't know how. Do the math out for me, guys. I'm too caffeinated to do math. Since Wonder Man has shown up in real time, he was a one-shot character, and got strong enough to beat up Thor, and then rebelled against the Masters of Evil who created him, and then they let him die. We'll find out his saga, but this was awesome drama to me as a kid. I didn't know who Wonder Man was. The last 2 issues gave us some backstory on not just Wonder Man, but all of these characters. And this next 10 issues is just a deep dive into comic book Avengers lore, and I'm here for it. So I just want to say, like, if a comic is good, people will do the work to catch up with it, but I don't know if it's like one of those youngsters today, they don't have any attention span, like, or is it like the comics just aren't worth the, first, the comics today, I get off my lawn yelling at the cloud, old man, but the comics today aren't that good in the mainstream, and they're too expensive. So I think it's that combination that people just like, I don't want to do the work. But back then, these comics were amazing and they were cheap. So you're like, okay, I didn't quite understand everything, but for 30 cents, I got 30 cents worth of entertainment out of it. I mean, gum was 25, bubble gum was 25 cents or a dime. You know what I mean? So you could get 3 pieces of bubble gum or a comic book. And nobody expects bubble gum to last forever. Bubble gum lasts, 4 or 5 minutes? You know what I mean? So, like, you're like, okay, that was worth 3 sticks of bubble gum. That's kid logic. So this is, like I said, you don't get everything in it. It takes like 20 issues for what happens in this comic to fully crystallize, and it was worth it. It was so good. It was like a soap opera, Days of Our Lives or whatever. This was soap operas for little kids, but like Days of Our Lives, the maid shows up alive, but you were dead, and then for the next 2 years, that's the story plot. It's fun. All right, don't worry, John, you're not that weird. I talk back to Babbling Brooks. There you go. Shut up, you Babbling Brook. Trying to think over here. 30 cents. I thought they were 25 cents. Now they're 30 cents, and soon they will be 35 cents. The only, inflation. Like, to me, I look at inflation compared to comic books. Like, how much is a regular comic book? $5? $5 for a regular comic book? You know what I mean? So to me, 2026 $5 is the equivalent of 1977 30 cents. You know, but look at this Jack Kirby cover. So this is Jack Kirby with Dick Ayers. You see the DA over here. Black Talon. I'm not even going to tell you the jokes that me and my friends made over the years. Black Talon, you know, in a rooster outfit. Do I need to be less subtle than that? But look at that. We got Wonder Man over here. The Vision. I always liked the Jack Kirby drew the Vision. I don't know why. I love Jack Kirby's Vision and John Romita's Vision. Iron Man, Captain America. Oh, he's in that pose. We got Scarlet Witch over here, Wasp over here, and then just skulls. Nightmare in New Orleans. I love that. Just stiff. I mean, look at this arm over here. If I swear, I sometimes think, you know, like criticism, you know, like this would get torn apart today. If this comic came out right now on a crowdfunded comic, oh my God, the blue pencil of scorn or whatever, like everybody would be enough. There's guys that I don't like, and even I don't nitpick their art. So it's a comic book. You know, somebody said it, and it's simplistic, but I do believe it. The flaws are the style. If everybody drew perfect photorealistic, I think it wouldn't be as fun, right? It's the flaws of your style. Your differentiation from reality is the stuff. Now there comes to me like a bad picture. I don't want to start naming names. I'm not here for drama. I'm trying to get past the drama, but I'm human. But somebody drew a horse that was egregiously bad. To me, the problem is because it didn't fit in. If everything was in that style, like Rob Liefeld, everything is out wonky and out of proportions, but everything is like that. Everything he draws is wrong. So that's his style, and it works. But when you have Neil Adams or Wally Wood, and then all of a sudden that egregiously bad horse, it sticks out like a sore thumb. That is like, oh, gee, it pulls me out of the story. You know, it ruins my suspension of disbelief. You know, this, I notice it, but it's not so egregiously different than everything of Jack Kirby. So, like, you get what I'm saying? This is horrible right here. This is horrible, but who cares? Yeah, at the same time, you know, what do you want me to say? First off, it's Jack Kirby, so I'll always be affectionate on the side of Jack Kirby, but you understand what I'm saying? Now, okay, from this point forward, I'm going to look at the chat and I'm going to change the page on purpose this time. Why does this guy have a chicken costume? Because his name is the Black Talon and he's a voodoo guy. He's a voodoo guy. And we're all skirting around the obvious joke. I think Marcus understands the joke. That's Dan Atkins on the cover. Yep, Jack Kirby, Dan Atkins. Oh, Neil Adams said that? Okay, yeah, I knew somebody said that. It's Kirby. I always wanted to get a little bulldog and name it Kirby. So here they are. So Jerry Conway is the writer. John Buscema and Joe Sinnott are the artists. Oh my God, that's awesome, right? John Conway, John Buscema, Joe Sinnott. Oh, this is the A-team. John Costanza, letterer. Petra Goldberg, colorist, and Steve Englehart, plotter. So what year is this? 1976. 1976. So, boom, Wonder Man. You know, he came out of that box like fragile. You know, it's a major award box. He just pops out of it, and he points the Vision. He says, "He's the one that stole my mind." That's where we left off last issue. And so remember, the news press, everybody was there because it's a big deal that the Avengers are finalizing their roster. And Wonder Man shows up. It's kind of like, he's my father. That's my baby. You know what I mean? In every soap opera. Dun, dun, dun. The camera zooms in on what's her name? Susan Lucci. And then we go right to a soap commercial. And, then you got to wait. That's what happened. And then what do we got here? We got a splash page. Just wonderful colors. Look at the balance of colors on this. We got, the green, we got blue over here, bookends, green over here. It's really, really cool. I wonder if that's by accident or design. And look at just this dramatic pose, over the top. Like, it's one of the big flaws in modern comics, and I do it myself too. Obviously I don't draw, but like I'll see it and I don't think about it until afterwards. I don't know if anybody said this or if I'm making it up, but the acting, the artist has to draw the characters and has to act. We all love Kevin Maguire's facial expressions. He catapulted it into the person who we go to for facial expressions with the Justice League International. You know what I mean? Everybody just always kind of has like the excited face, that soy face. I don't want to make it because then somebody's going to clip it and it'll be all over the place. But what I'm talking about. So, but what you got to do is wildly gesticulate. So I think this is my theory, and let me know, Dave Brink, Marcus. I don't know if anybody else watching this right now is an artist or a writer, but the acting in a comic book is as close to silent film acting you can get. You don't have the movement. If we've all watched The Shining, where Jack Nicholson suddenly looks at the camera, and looks away, little ticks, body movements, gestures. You don't have that in a comic book. It's still images. So you have to make up for it. In silent films, you didn't have the voice to convey emotion. So I think comic books, like, look at this. That is such an melodramatic pose. You know what I mean? And it works because it's a comic book. So if you have two people sitting there drinking coffee, maybe have the people acted super distraught. You know what I mean? Like sitting there, cup in your hand, leaning up against a chair. My baby died. You know what I mean? No, you have them like, you know what I mean? You got to overact. But listen, look at that splash page. So again, this may be somebody's first video. A splash page is one panel, usually the first, but not necessarily the first page. And you can have as many splash pages as the story dictates. So we got Wonder Man. J'accuse. He's pointing to the Vision. And look at the torture and anguish what Wonder Man is going through. You stole my mind. And Vision is just like perfect acting for Vision. He's a cold, emotionless, soulless robot just standing there. And then Captain America looking concerned. Wonder Woman. Scarlet Witch looking shocked. It's incredible. Wonder Man came back from the dead, repeating that same accusation against the Vision over and over again, like some bizarre broken phonograph record. What is a phonograph record, you old fogey? The crowd's reacting. In a moment, it'll be a hysterical mob. Got to move fast. Just boom. Look at that setup. Look at that. This is somebody's first comic book. You're all brought up to speed. Brilliant. Now let's check out the comments. Just saw an old interview with JR Sr. He's so humble it hurts. He's such a great guy. I told you I went to his house 3 times. He was next door neighbors with one of my coworkers, and he brought me up. What a great guy. What a great guy. A mind is a terrible thing to steal. What is the current roster of this Avengers team? So we got Beast, Vision, Scarlet Witch, Captain America, Iron Man. Yes. And Wasp. This splash is brilliant. Yeah, it's so good. So good. John Bree, Shadowheart. Good to see you. Good to see you. This is from Avengers 152. Avengers 152, 1976. The exaggerated poses are very helpful to bring the comic alive, especially in superhero books. Everything should be bigger than life. There we go. Excellent. If you don't want to draw a guy just rocket ramrod still and then expounding dialogue, that's why Marcus is here. He's drawing the public eye for me. I told him, do like Ditko-esque poses. You know what I mean? Like Ditko always had Spider-Man or the Question or the Creeper in and that's like the public eye isn't much stronger than a normal human. He's a fit guy. His genius, like Rorschach, is his unpredictability and his intelligence and agility. So you know what I mean. So he's squirrely. He's squirrely. So so draw him as a squirrely guy. Yes, back when we were a proper country. You probably already said this before I arrived, but who is the writer? Oh, you just missed it. You literally just missed it. It's Jerry Conway, writer, and John Buscema layouts, Joe Sinha inks. The A-Team. The A-Team for us old fogies. The A-Team. So, and if anybody's new, I'm going to do the 2 pages, chat. 2 pages, chat. That's the format of these type of shows. So let's turn the page. So look at all these panels. A lot of words over here. So Captain America was on the verge of I need to do something, but then Wonder Man collapsed. We got to get him out of here. Excuse me, I'm Sam Ruther, CBS News. Can you explain what happened? Are we really to believe this is Wonder Man, not an imposter? Believe what you like, Ruther. I don't have time to talk. Captain America, what about you? Ruther, I got a great deal of respect for the news media. Right now, the respect doesn't include you. I've got a sick man in my hands. Get out of the way. Oh, he just got rebuked by Captain America. Note the backgrounds are pretty non-existent. We're in the middle of Manhattan, standing next to building, but they have a low angle. That low angle, I guess, makes it so that you see the sky. Just great cheats so that you don't have to fill it with details. And now they're filling us up. We just had battles with this guy, that guy, this guy, and now this. Now, this. We're just bringing the people up to speed. Oh yeah, and Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket's on the team too, and I love that costume. So now they're all the scientists are checking out Wonder Man. Hank Pym, scientist. Tony Stark, scientist, and Hank McCoy, scientist. Even though in this time period, Hank McCoy was kind of like a goofy, lovable, joke a minute, happy guy, he was the scientific. Like I always thought that was cool in the original X-Men, that the guy named Beast with the most physical powers out of all the team was also the egghead of the team. I just thought that was cool. Beats the stereotype of the jock being the dumb guy. So he was the football player and the scientist. He's alive, Beast. I don't know how. I saw him die myself. I saw him sealed in an airtight capsule. Even so, he's definitely alive. Avengers number 9. So this guy is the sleazy journalist. Do I have to pontificate on how journalists are sleazy? They're basically scum of the earth. The only thing worse than a journalist is a politician, and the worst politicians are in Congress. It's just, and I love this. Jarvis comes out and gives him a stern talking to, tells him to leave, signing out. Like he basically threatens him. He goes, I think that would be I think now would be a good time for you to leave, Mr. Ruthers. Your presence on this, your presence on these premises is no longer required. Good day to you. And he's like, okay. So I love that. Jarvis comes out and gives you the old stink eye. Yep. No doubt about it. He's got all the basics: respiration, heart action, circulation. But like the man said, there's no one home. Meaning he's got a brain wiped clean, all the memories except for that one sentence he keeps repeating. I tell you, friends, is the most horrifying thing I've ever seen. Android eyes watching. The vision is silent and unmoving. So I don't know how they know this, but they know this because there's, I love this. If you're a scientist in a comic book, you're every type of scientist. And they got 3 scientists checking them out. So Wonder Man is breathing, his heart is beating, he's got body temperature, but his brain is empty. I don't know what machine scans for empty memories, but he's got empty memories. And that's the setup now. We're on page 3, setup. Where are we? Who did the pencils? John Buscema, inks Joe Sinha. Nightmare in New Orleans. Good morning. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, this is good. Unless I got to work, this is going to be my Saturday, Sunday routine, 10 a.m. both days. A lot of riders from that era are superior to a lot of the riders at the big two right now. No argument. I don't think anybody in this chat is going to argue with you. You know, it's one of the reasons why I'm doing this show. Chris, yeah, Hank Pym's Yellow Jack costume is one of the best. And another thing I want to point out. Look at this panel right here. We got Wonder Man in costume being examined by Yellow Jacket in costume. Beast is always in costume. Iron Man in costume. If this was a modern comic right now, they would all have their masks off. We see their face. Why? I understand why in a movie, although I don't like it, the actors want to see their faces. It's hard to act when you got a costume on, but in a comic book, there is almost no excuse to not have the superhero in full costume at every point. You know what I mean? Captain America's inside. There's nobody to fight. He's got his mask on. You know, like this would be Chris Evans' face. This would be Robert Downey Jr. You know what I mean? This would be Kelsey Grammer. You know what I mean? We would just be seeing the guy from Cheers and the guy from Less Than Zero talking to the guy from I don't even know what Chris Evans ever did besides the Avengers movies. You know what I mean? Just put him in superhero costumes. I want to see superhero costumes, you know? So, where are they? Where are we now? Good old Jarvis. Good old Jarvis. Yeah, I love Jarvis. That would be a good episode for Clobber Time. Who wins in a fight, Jarvis or Alfred? Nobody takes off the mask or helmet, John. You said that, and I can't unsee it now. Okay. Yeah. It's comic books, you know? Plus, again, another artist gets in the indie faction, he gets a lot of poop for having the same face. That's a comic book staple. That I got problems with that guy, but that's not one of them. Everybody had the same face. If they were all to take off their masks, the only way you would tell them apart would be their costumes. You know, they didn't really like that. That's a different face. That's not going to be Iron Man's face, but like that's every bad guy's face. You know, that's why I said to Marcus in the script, draw Sal Buscema thugs, you know, because they just recycled faces. I love how costumes don't have to make functional sense, but simply have cool designs. Yellow Jacket can't see anyone coming from the flanks, but who cares? Looks badass. Yeah, exactly. If he turns, he effectively has like blinders, right? I thought of that as a kid too, but who cares? Who absolutely cares? Yeah, Carl Urban got it. He's one of the few. And Hugo Weaving in V for Vendetta, he got it. You know? I'm not an artist, but I imagine it's usually easier to make distinguished masks over distinguished. Yes, absolutely. Plus, the costumes and the masks are their faces. You know what I mean? This is Captain America's face. Captain America's face has an A on it. You know what I mean? Spider-Man's face is his mask. If you get what I'm saying. Time to turn the page. Oop. Nope, I did not. Okay. You know, this is why I didn't want to rejoin the Avengers. I'm a theoretician, not a Dr. Frankenstein. I don't have the temperament anymore. Stop whining. This is a scientific problem. Hank, darling, he's awake. What? It's uncanny. Something about this is like watching an old monster movie. An awful thought, I know, but listen. The silver shadow, reaching hand, the voice, it's softer, somehow like the Simon Williams of old. Simon Williams is Wonder Man's identity. I always wondered what sort of Avenger he'd make if the silver shadow, reaching hand, and suddenly he passes out again. And then Vision over here. His caption boxes are always square and yellow. That indicates his voice sounds weird and different. Everybody else has white, round voice bubbles. He has square and yellow. So he's got an artificial voice. It's the only, I don't know how you pictured it, and I'm not going to attempt it. You know, I'm not a voice actor. We need Ben Spar, voice actor, to do the Vision. He knows Wanda somewhere within that ravaged brain. Wonder Man knows. What are you saying, Wonder Vision? That I can no longer contain my guilt, for the accusation is true. My android brain is patterned after his dead one. I possess his mind, if not his memory. So what does that mean, if not his memory? Just why'd you say it's a? I don't understand. Do you have his memory, or do you not have his memory? That word balloon always bothered me as a kid and as an adult. I would never write that. The purpose of language is to convey information, not obfuscate it. If you are speaking in a manner to obfuscate communication, to obfuscate information, you're shifty. That's why I don't like all this pronoun business. They, them, that is language designed to obfuscate information. That means you're shifty. That means there's something you're not using. You don't use a hammer to screw in a screw. You use a screwdriver. You use language to convey information as succinctly and as accurately as possible. If you're using language to confuse reality, you're shifty. And this, now I'm not saying Vision is being shifty. I'm just saying I think they were trying to be a little bit like fancy pants over here, and it doesn't work. I'm going to read this again, see if you agree with me. My android brain is patterned after his dead one. I possess his mind, if not his memory. So I'm a little confused by that. Could anybody in the wonderful world of the chat explain exactly? And seeing him thus bereft of it all, mentally I could but ponder, what right have I to which is rightfully his? And even as a kid, I'm just like, you just copied his patterns. Like it's like a computer. Like didn't you just copy? Like they didn't surgically remove these patterns from his brain. So if upon scrutiny this plot doesn't hold up in my mind, whether it holds up in your mind is a different thing. I can't. But it always kind of bothered me. If you pattern something, if I'm looking at the Mona Lisa and I patterned my art after the Mona Lisa is still there. But what do I know? This is magic science. So no, there's something you forgot, Vision. Something Wonder Man was sent here, and whoever sent him is responsible for the condition, not us, and especially not the Vision. So she's pissed off. She's emotional. Ain't that like a woman? So she's going outside, and the paparazzi's there. So what does she do? She, without hesitation, she gestures. Immediately, a gleaming hex sphere forms around her hands as though from nowhere. So this is a little disconnect. We're supposed to have a hex sphere, but not bolts. Now, Stan Lee said that she doesn't fire bolts. She just wiggles her hand and bad luck happens. She's called the witch because witches, it's just a good descriptor for her mutant ability. She's not magic, she's a mutant who alters probability. And that's why I made up my character Mary Sue as a response to a Scarlet Witch. Mary Sue can alter probabilities. She doesn't have magic, and she could control it lowercase. She can't control it capital, if that makes sense. Like if she is going to really if she concentrates and uses her power to a maximum extent, she can't predict what's going to happen. She could change one possibility, but that doesn't mean she understands all the probabilities. But she can wave her hand in a fight, and you'll see in the next Heroic Tales, it's her using her abilities. I realized that some people didn't exactly understand what happened to Mary Sue in issue 2. I don't know if I was failed in my writer, or if I assumed too much, or if I was clear as mud. But issue number 3 should explain everything in there shouldn't be any what exactly happened. Or I'm hoping some people being like, oh, that's what happened. I think American Texan is the only person in his review that figured out, or at least expressed what happened. Anyway, back to this. So she's just blasted away the news reporters, which, millions in lawsuits and damages and bad press. Who cares? And Wonder Man has traveled in this crate, so there must be a clue. So she's looking into the Fragile Major Award crate to see if there's any information about that she could use to solve. So she's using her brains. She's being emotional, but she's using her brains. Oh wow, a lot of comments. That would be an EEG to measure brain activity. Yeah, okay. So if he has brain activity, but in EEG doesn't measure how many memories you have, right? Am I? I don't see. I don't understand that. Do the science, man. Yeah, I'm going to science. You want a science? Let's all science together. I hate that kind of talk. Did they do a control or control? Yeah, there you go. That word is old English. Yeah, he's speaking. He's speaking old English. He's an android. He speaks weird. He's trying to say he thinks like him. He has his intelligence, but not his memory. Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. But it always like, I always kind of misunderstood, or it wasn't clear. I think he's saying that he has his mental powers, his way of thinking, but not necessarily. Yeah, that's the only way it makes sense. Otherwise, he would have his memories and remember. The writer was trying to be fancy. Yes, absolutely. Why does the vision look like Yul Brynner in that upper panel? Here? Does he look like Yul Brynner? He kind of does. I always thought Xavier was patterned after Yul Brynner. You need some visual identifier in comics. We could see Susan Storm's invisible constructs. Yes, yes. The dots. What did I... Oh. I was explaining to... who was I explaining it to? I forget who I was explaining it to, but the patriarch has telekinesis. I said, and sometimes I'll draw like Renzo will draw lines to explain what he's doing, but you can't see it; it's invisible. But we, as the reader, could see it. So, like, there was one scene where Renzo drew the patriarch do. You could see the telekinetic lines of force manipulating something. But I was like, get rid of him there. It's too much. Like, you could see what he's doing by what he's doing. I don't want to spoil Patriarch #1, but so I was like, it's just too much. So Renzo just he draws digitally. He removed the layer, and I think it was clearer. And then when Oscar colored it, it was obvious what was happening. So I think it just made it look clear. But sometimes in Fantastic Four, you don't see Sue Storm; she's invisible because it's supposed to be a surprise. Dr. Doom's gloating, he's about to pull the lever, and then all of a sudden he gets punched. You know what I mean? But sometimes you see the dots and the clear blue because we're supposed to see her, but it's understood that the bad guys don't see her. That's a tightrope to walk. Professor X was... Oh, there you go. There you go. Old Dirty Fatty, the name that makes me giggle because I'm still a little kid mentally. So continued after the next page. So she's going into the box for clues. What are those clues? We'll be right back with this commercial message from our sponsor. Look at this. Buy a box of Black Widows. There you go. It's got to be rubber. Genuine artificial human eye rings. Oh, so you get rings with eyeballs on them. Real spiders embedded in clear acrylic. Okay, so it's Black Widows based. Can you imagine sending somebody a box of Black Widows? I don't like you, and I found out your address. You're getting a box of Black Widows. Be happy, prosperous. Be a happy, prosperous grit salesman. Look at this kid. This kid's so freaking happy. Don't you want to be like him? I do. Or we could earn extra money like Tim Newcomer over here. I love all those ads. And those ads made comic books affordable. You know what I mean? Like, we forget. And it's one of those things that, like, it's like a rite of passage when you realize you're the product. Like, I used to watch David Letterman, back when it was, it was originally on NBC and then it went to CBS. And I used to watch David Letterman. And then one day, I'm just watching David Letterman, and I realized all three guests, all it is like, okay, David Letterman does the goofy human tricks, reads viewer mail, and then the rest of the show is commercials. There's commercials, and then Tom Hanks comes on and talks about his movie. It's a commercial for Tom Hanks. And then, whatever. Denzel Washington comes on, and it's a commercial for Denzel Washington. And I was like, I'm the product. these advertisers and the movies and stuff like that, they're all paying to get from me. And and it's the same with like so in comic books, I'm the product because these were the customers. These were the customers. The 30 cents, was it that much money? I don't know. Like, they made so much money from the ads that they could afford to basically make these comic books dirt cheap. 30 cents wasn't a lot of money, even for a kid, you know? So I was the product, all of these people were the customers, and they were selling these advertisements to me. And this was the means, you know what I mean? Now I think another reason comics are so bad is like, there's no advertisements that made them cheap and affordable, and I don't know. It's just, but once you realize that you're the product, like a friend of mine was like, I'm going to go to 23andMe and find out my lineage. I said, what are you, nuts? You're selling your DNA? What do they do with that DNA? It's like, and how do you know it's accurate? And now they have a database of your DNA. You don't think they're selling that information for research, for whatever? I said, you're the product. You're paying to be the product. Like, that always bothered me. You're paying to be the product. Like right now, I bought this shirt. I paid to advertise DC Comics and Superman. Now, I did it willingly. I love DC Comics. I love Superman. So I was willing to be the product for something. But always think about that. Like, am I the product right now? Like it bothered me. I don't even know if this was the 80s or the 90s, but everybody had those shirts that just said DK New York, DKNY. And everybody's walking around. I'm like, how much was that shirt? Like, it was like $35 for a t-shirt to advertise somebody else. I'm like, you should be paid to wear that shirt. You know what I mean? You're walking around with a shirt that says Eat at Joe's and you paid for it. So I've always been aware of what my clothes say. Am I selling somebody's product? Most of the time, I wear shirts that don't have any visible labels, tags, or anything like that. Like when I'm at home and I'm doing these channels, I wear comic book shirts because, I like comic books. It's the name of the game. But I'm not like in the 80s, everybody had Adidas t-shirts, and they had sneakers that blatantly advertised the company, and they paid an exorbitant amount of money to advertise both a multi-billion-dollar corporation on their clothes, on their shoes, on their hats. So I never got that. But on the flip side, you could go to Fund My Comic and buy comic book, and you could buy Mary Sue t-shirts, you could buy Kung Fu Hitty, so but just be aware of which company you're supporting. That's the end of rant. See, a lot of coffee. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do the comic and then I'll get to the comic. So she's looking through the box. She finds this. It's dirt clouded with strands of peculiar grass. Only Stark's machines can turn, but I have got a faster way, taught to me through my mentor, Agatha Harkins. I need only to close my eyes and attune myself to the essence of this material. And an image springs to mind, an image of men moving fires ritual in a place, New Orleans. I call BS on this. This is giving her power that she clearly didn't have and wasn't supposed to have. Couple or 2 weeks ago, we did It's Clobbering Time. We talked about inconsistent characters. We all forgot about the Scarlet Witch. She's supposed to just have bad luck. And then later on, she developed good luck. And now she's got whatever power the plot requires. I always had kind of a disdain for characters that just have whatever power the plot requires. So like magic. So I do have a magic character, the metaphysician. And someday I would like to do like a who's who of all my characters. And I'm going to list all his spells, so you could know exactly what he could do. I find that to be more honest, like Superman doesn't just open his mouth and shoot teleportation beams. You know what I mean? Like we would call BS on it. The Beast doesn't just turn into an octopus. Like there have to be, I know it's a suspension of disbelief. There's fantastic stuff, but we have to be internally consistent. Otherwise, who cares? And I think the Spectre, um, Green Lantern, Scarlet Witch, they're some of the most inconsistent characters as far as the treatment of their powers. So now she goes back in. Louisiana, you sure? He's body. Yeah, that was before he was stolen by voodoo priests and brought to Louisiana, where they made him a Walking Dead, a Zuvumbi. It's because they couldn't use the word zombie. A Zuvumbi. And as far as I know, Marcus, do you know? Did Marvel make up this spelling? Zuvembi. Zuvumbi. Dun dun dun. So look at this. This is just, you know, she went in, picked up a piece of dirt, go, plot. You know, it's pretty poor if you ask me. Like, when it's so easy, they just got a big box. They can't just go check out the tracking. You know what I mean? So they invent a power for her, and now she knows everything that's going on. Let's get going. Next scene, they're rocketing off to New Orleans. You know, maybe I'm the one who should apologize. Here, how's this for a smile? You look better than you. Yeah, so why are you so grim lately? And I like this. This I like. So the setting up that, Hank, I just want you to know, I'm sorry I forced you to rejoin the Avengers, Wasp, his wife says. I just thought it might be good for you. You've been so grim lately. Have I? Then I'm the one who should apologize. How's this for a smile? You look almost human. I guess that's what it boils down to. I'm not a swashbuckler anymore. I'm a grown man. And I feel kind of silly chasing around playing hero. Nonsense. You've always been insecure about my inheritance. Now about yourself. Now take that. Shut up. So I kind of like this. They're recognizing that Yellow Jacket Hank Pym has been portrayed inconsistently over the decades. And as far as I know, they never really adjust it as like a mental thing. You know, I guess they just made a bland character and then tried to spice him up and then that didn't work. We did this. And now they're addressing those inconsistencies as some sort of like personality disorder. And I love that stuff. I love that. It doesn't take away from the character. It adds a flaw, which increases tension and storytelling and drama. So I love it. Here we got a superhero. These days, I guess they would call that imposter syndrome. You know, so Hank Pym is suffering from imposter syndrome. You know, it's cool. It works. You know, perhaps we are all uncertain of ourselves, Jennifer. This is so Marvel right over here. You know, even now Vision is starting to doubt himself. If I had your kind of power, Viz, I wouldn't be uncertain of anything. Great characterization. Hank Pym has always been a little, what's the word? Unimpressed with his own powers. He's Ant-Man. Yay! He's on a team with the freaking Hulk and Thor. And his power is he shrinks down to the size of an ant. You know what I mean? So you're watching one guy lift up mountains and punch stuff to the moon. Another guy summoning the storm and throwing hammers that collapse giants into puddles of goo. And I shrink down to the ant. But I still have the full strength of a human, you know, so it's no wonder that he became Giant Man to overcompensate, you know, and then that didn't work. And now he's Yellow Jacket. You know, it works. It works for me. Hey, fellas, you think the Scarlet Witch is right? Can Wonder Man be what she claims? A Zuvumbi? You're a scientist. You tell me. Now, he can't be a Zuvumbi because he's alive. They said on the previous page, his heart is beating. He has body temperature. So he's not a zombie. A zombie is dead. Unless it's like, I don't know. I should have looked this up because I didn't think of it. But could anybody look up this word, Zuvumbi, and see if maybe it is a Haitian for a not dead zombie? I don't know. Maybe Marvel made it up because the Comics Code Authority can't have the undead. I don't know. I should have looked it up. But now let's check out the chat. My favorite part of this is the chat, what you guys have to say. I think this is where we left off. In the Marvel movie Thunderbolts, the Sentry uses telekinesis. They stole my idea. They stole my idea. Man, I'm not welcoming people comparing my guy to Sentry. These ads are crazy. It must be tricky to parody, but John finds a way. I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying that. I have an ad by Brian Bow that just I literally rolled dice, just because I went one page too much and it has to be divisible by 4. So to include that ad, I would have had to put in another 3 pages, and I didn't have the material. So I already have an ad ready for Heroic Tales 3. It's cool. By Brian Bow, Wolf and Batsy fame. I love the ads too, and I'm glad you like them. It would be funny if I looked like the drunken bum prospector from Blazing Saddle. Yes, it would. It would. Old dirty fatty. Now that's what I picture. Thanks. There you go. You just implanted an image into my head. Yeah, late night guests only come on to promote their new movie, TV show, album, opening monologue, joke segment, 2 guest musical artists, formula since the 70s. Yeah, so I literally, I'm glad you get it. I stopped watching all of that late night stuff. Once I realized that I was the product, I felt manipulated. And who likes to feel manipulated? You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm done. I'm good. You know, and that was years before it became propaganda, or maybe it was propaganda then and I didn't recognize it. But like, as far as I know, I never really thought of Johnny Carson as propaganda. And here's the funny thing. Every once in a while, my wife and I will do this thing. Let's go to bed early, like way early, and we lay in bed and we'll watch Johnny Carson reruns because it's like a comfort thing for me. When I was a kid and I couldn't sleep or whatever, it was summertime, I just have these warm memories of just because my dad always went to bed early. My dad was a blue collar worker, woke up at 4:30 in the morning forever to go to work. He had to get that train to get to work on time, and he worked as much overtime as possible. He had 7 kids. You know what I mean? My dad instilled into me the idea doesn't matter how you feel, you got to pay your bills, you got to go to work. That's my dad, he taught by example. So my mom would stay up late, and I just remember a few times just laying on the couch with the blanket watching Johnny Carson while my mom always had her Schlitz beer, the little barrel cigarette, the crossword puzzle, and then one eye on the TV, and da 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 da. And the very few times, like my father would be on vacation, I remember very few times during the summer, my dad would be on the couch and I'd be on the floor or whatever. And no, we'd a couple of my older brothers, sisters, we'd all just be watching Johnny Carson together. It's like a comfort thing. So like, I would be like, okay, we're going to bed early. We'll watch Johnny Carson. It's just me and my wife, and then the 2 cats. Da 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 da. Cracking up at Don. My wife gets shocked by Don Rickles. We also watch the Dean Martin roasts. Oh my God! My wife jaw hits the ground at some of those jokes. So now I got to pay more attention. Was it propaganda then, or was it just fun entertainment? And the celebrity, the caliber of celebrities has gone down. These people used to just be like, I don't know, glamorous. And now I look at the celebrities. Who's even glamorous anymore? I don't care. Now I know that they're all Harvey Weinstein, Epsteins. We got to come up with a word for a Weinstein, Epstein. The obvious word I'm not allowed to say. I'll get banned. And some folks are ads for their own, and some clothes are ads for DKNY. Why did people spend money for DKNY? If you want a free contact the Mormons. Are you Mormon? I know that they're into that. This is going to sound weird, but I don't care. I don't care. Like, can anybody name your great-grandparents, all of them, and their maiden names? The past is dead. I'm sorry. I know, like, a lot of old people, all of a sudden they get interested in their family line, but like, to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I know my grandparents. I love my grandparents. They're all good. I never met my mother's father. He died before I was born. But I know 3 out of 4 of my grandparents. I met my father's grandmother, so I know I met my great grandmother, but that's it. But I can't even, I don't know their names. I don't know, you know what I mean? It's over, It doesn't affect me. I just had some coffee, but I think yours tastes better. Yeah, and I'm panicking because it's almost empty, and I don't want to. I want more, but I don't want to leave the screen to go get them. The comics were still underpriced back then, even with the ads. Yes, underpriced. They made it affordable for little kids. And they were everywhere, so they made up for it in volume. You know what I mean? Now, I never thought about it until I talked to Chuck Dixon when he said the first death knell was getting them out of the newsstands. He's right. And that's once the direct market happened, it was like that curve, exponential. The price of comics just started going up. It was like a couple of years before comics would go up a nickel, and now they were going up by leaps and bounds, quicker and quicker and quicker. They just changed the label. Yep. An interesting story is to have a storyline in which the entire team's power is not suited to help, so they have to work together to barely survive. Yeah. Like the X-Men did that in the last Sunday. Emma Frost, the White Queen. Go check that out if you missed it. It's the first appearance of Emma Frost. Learn what a detestable person she is. The henchmen were designed to cancel out the X-Men's powers, so they actually had to work in tandem and switch. I love that. Has the infamous slap happened by this issue? No, that's years away. Maybe 10 years away. Which Hank Pym are we getting today? Yellow Jacket. Like, this is the beginning. Like, they still haven't outright said that he had mental problems. They admitted to, like, personality defects. And, and it works. I think voodoo zombies are actually live people that have been tricked into thinking they are dead. Yeah, there's some sort of drug. I don't know how much is real and how much is fake, but there's some sort of drug that robs you of free will. And it's in the Epstein files that he was harvesting these plants. This guy was a super. I can't think of a supervillain as evil as Jeffrey Epstein. The slap wasn't until way later. Texan Cap, I just mentioned you. Great. The Great Karnak. Yeah, that Johnny Carson. Yes. Yep. That's funny. Yep. I thought you meant to say Great Comic. I thought it was a typo, but yep, Great Karnak. The late night became propaganda in 2016. I wonder what happened in 2016. Yeah. I'll take your word on it, because I think I was done with late night talk shows in the 90s. I went to college. I went away to Albuquerque in 92. And at that point, I was already done. So it must have been maybe even the 80s. I think I was done with late night talk. Carson is the best who ever did it. Letterman was second until he went to CBS. I got to agree. He's better than Leno, but he's too Northeast for America, so he had to tone it down. I never watched Leno. It's something about Leno. He's probably a nice guy. I got nothing against him. But to me, he had the charisma of a bucket of paste, But the direct market had to happen because the newsstands didn't want to carry comics because they were too cheap. I know. If only. Yeah, at first, I always thought it was because the companies and Diamond distributors wanted it. That's what I always thought. I thought Diamond distributors didn't want to deal with the newsstand anymore because they didn't want to deal with returns. I don't, so I always had a bias against Diamond distributors because I thought they killed comics, but now people are telling me that it was the newsstands just didn't want them anymore. Karnak. Yeah, well, this Karnak was Johnny Carson, Karnak of the East. Oh, one comment just got in. Craig Ferguson was the last really great. Yeah, I didn't like him for the longest time. I was just like, not nothing personal against him. I just didn't like late night talk show. And I saw clips of him, and I got to say, he won me over. Like, I just thought he was that jerk that he played on the Drew Carey show. I've never seen him before or since. So in my mind, he got typecast, just like the fat woman. I can't remember the character's name, but I hated that woman because she was so detestable on the show. Mimi, is that her name? And then you find out she's just a regular person. Yeah, I know. I should be smarter than that. But sometimes, there's a reason why people get stereotyped or typecast, whatever the word is. Craig Ferguson was really good. And like Carson, never political. Let it is what America likes. A New York attitude, sarcasm, and forwardness rubs a lot of. Yeah, I agree. When I went to Albuquerque, I saw a lot of that. a lot of that. And then when I was in Albuquerque for 7 years, and then when I came back, I started to see what they meant. I probably got my New Yorker back. All right, let's turn the page. Interesting discussion. I'm loving this. I don't care. At 5 o'clock, I'm going to the empanada party with my wife, so I'm loving this discussion. This is what I wanted to do. This is great. So let's look at all of this great products. So now we got new goodies from Marvel, the superhero merchandise, P.O. Box 777, Dover, New Jersey. The origins of Marvel Comics. Now this is quite brilliant because this is Marvel products. There's the Captain America car, the Spider-Man car, the Spider-Man helicopter, Sons of Origins of Marvel Comics. These Mego action figures, and they had to pay Marvel to sell Marvel products. Freaking, that's how powerful, that's how great Marvel was. You bought a Marvel license to sell the Marvel products and then paid Marvel to sell Marvel stuff in Marvel Comics. Freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. Now Marvel Comics is just house ads because nobody sees any value in advertising in Marvel Comics. I mean, number one, we all talk about fixing comics. We all talk about it. And we all, myself included, we all miss the point. We got to get advertisers back in Marvel Comics. Number one, we got to get advertising back in Marvel Comics. Without that, everything else doesn't matter. Great stories, great art. Yes, that'll help. But we got to get advertising back in the comics and either stabilize the prices or reduce the prices. Get Hollywood movies to advertise. Get video games to advertise. Warhammer, all of the nerd stuff. Got to get it back. Got to get advertising back into the comic books. And then Bubble Yum, Blow Pops. So now it's just bad technology and everything. So once during the war, I fought a Nazi vampire. That was a touch. What's a bunch of voodoo after that? Invaders number 6. Cap's right. The line between real and unreal is blurring. Not so long ago, I battled besides a werewolf. And when you come down to it, friend, look at yourself. Werewolf by Night number 42. Yeah, look at me. Hank McCoy, friendly neighborhood monster. Swell. Words hurt, Tony. Words hurt. Beast didn't do anything. Beast is like, I'm a monster. A little bit of that X-Men pity party that I just can't stand. And that's my comic story. Rejects, that's what that's going to deal with. I hope you liked it. One of the characters, oh man, I keep wondering which character is going to breakout character that ones everybody will love. I'm like, everybody's going to love this guy. Oh no, everybody's going to love this girl. Oh no, this guy, So I go back and forth. I can't wait. I can't wait. Please support my comics. I got such a good team coming up. And ask Dave Brink, it's so tough to come up with a name. It's easy and fun to come up with individual characters, but a team is difficult. So, Rejects. They're going to be my X-Men outcast superhero team. So the X-Men are brooding. You look at this ship, it looks like a boat. How does that land? That's not a Quinjet. Come on, John Buscema, you messed up. That's not what the Quinjet looks like. They all land, and what's next, Wanda? The Beast can carry Wonder Man, but the question, the Beast, he's just a monster. Just have the Beast. Iron Man, you could lift 1,000,000 tons, and you make the Beast carry Wonder Man. But maybe that's why Wonder Man and the Beast became awesome friends. You're going to see one of the greatest friendships in comic books show up. I love the Beast and Wonder Man. It's all because the Beast had to carry his corpse. That kind of stuff stays in your psyche. We need information, and the place to get it is there, across the river in New Orleans. So now they're walking down the street. Remember how I promised you a vacation in the French Quarter, honey? Well, don't look now, but this is it. It's not the time for just Yellow Jacket. It's the rich Creole cooking. Is it the rich Creole cooking, or am I having a nightmare? I love how all the civilians have hats. All the civilians are wearing hats. So I love this. This is such poor plot progression. If Dave Brink just wrote into his comic book Ted just picks up a piece of dirt and goes, we got to go to New Orleans. That's where the zombies are. That's where blah, 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 blah. And then they just go to New Orleans. We'd be like, come on, Dave. You know what I mean? But we accept it here, you know. And then, of course, we got black people causing trouble. You know, one of the men involved in, so, Wanda, you seem disturbed. You sense a vision. That guy, he's in my vision. So the Avengers just, of course, all these people are white. Wanda sees the first black guy. Let's get him. And now Captain America, look, holy mama. It's a freaking costume goon squad. Chase out all the black people. You know, chase that black guy. Wasp and Scarlet Witch. Wasp and Yellow Jacket flying around. You know what I mean? I'm goofing, but it's funny. Let's see. John, when will you have Rick fight John? I haven't asked him. Maybe. I never say no. I'll ask him again at some point. I really enjoyed that conversation with him. I'm really surprised that he said yes. A lot of fun. And then he asked me for a link to it, and he started promoting it on Facebook. Got to flush out the woke for Marvel and DC first. Advertisement won't matter if fans aren't buying. I don't read manga, but it far outsells Marvel and DC. Absolutely. Yes. I'm not saying fix the advertisement in the comics. I'm saying we need, that's, whenever people talk about fixing comics, we all address get rid of the woke, get better art, get better writing. But yes, we also need to bring back the advertisement. Absolutely. I agree. Fix the product. It's easy to sell, I think. That's the shame of it. People like comic books. When I'm at work, I said this a million times. When I'm at work, and eventually comic books comes up because that's all I want to talk about. People are like, "Oh wow, they still make comic. That's so cool." You know, people, everybody. I don't care how cool you are. I'd say if I talk to 10 people, 9 of them are like, "Wow, that's so cool, man." I used to get. One guy's just like, "I don't care," you know. Maybe it's just a preference, but I think the Beast has it better than the Thing. Yeah, he does. I agree. I think the Beast has it better than, because I always thought that the Thing had a reduced sense of touch or reduced sense of feel. Like if you were to touch Ben Grimm, he wouldn't feel it. You know what I mean? So that is isolating. I always thought that the Ben Grimm is isolated in his own body. You know, almost like trapped. You know, like a human brain in a jar kind of thing. Like when the Thing holds Alicia's hand, does he feel Alicia's hand? You need a lot, in my mind, you need a lot of pressure before Ben, he feels the Hulk punching him, but does he feel like a hug from Alicia? Does he feel like, a hug from his nieces and nephews? And that's isolating. John Byrne did it pretty good in Next Man, the woman, I forget her name, but she had a vulnerability, and one of the weaknesses was she absolutely had no sense of touch. I think the only sensation that she had physically was food, was taste, and she became cold and indifferent. So I think that's one of the reasons why Ben Grimm is trying so hard to be human, whereas the Beast, yeah, he looked like a gorilla, but gorillas still have the sense of touch. Gorillas respond, to, or chimpanzees or whatever, So yes, I absolutely agree. I think he's got it better than the Thing. It's funny, but demographically realistic for New Orleans. I was going to make the obvious statistical joke. Make comic book companies interested in money again. Yes. I don't think the Thing feels lighter touches. Yeah, I think Ben Grimm is trapped in his own body. Yep. Oh, last comment came in. Chicks love the Beast. Yes, it's funny because I read someplace, I forget what it was. Was it Joe Duffy? She's one of the writers was talking about the Beast, and I think it was Joe Duffy said, "Oh, I would date the Beast," and she's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Oh, he's like a big cuddly teddy bear." So then this writer went around and asked all the women at Marvel, like, "Oh, I would love the Beast," and that's when they made him a chick magnet. And nowadays, he would be hanging out with JDA as a furry. he would, you would be the guest of honor at every furry convention. The Beast would have like a conga line waiting up for him. Where's poor Ben Grimm? They did a mature limited series. I forget what it was called, but one of the premises was, and yeah, this is adult, but I was kind of fascinated by the concept of like there's like a fetish group in the Marvel universe that women or men that are attracted to the non-human people, like the Abomination, the Thing, Beast, Colossus when he's in his iron form. Like they want the non-human supervillains. I'm trying to think of other supervillains. Maybe Dragon Man, who knows? But it was beginning of Marvel fetish, but like it's realistic. You know what I mean? There would be, you find some supervillain who looks like the devil with the horns and red skin and tail. There would be a freaking line of women to date that guy. Look at when Thanos was big in the Marvel universe, there was like all these subreddits about all of these gay men and women who like lusted after Thanos. And then what's that big woman in the video game that everybody liked? Chicks love the Beast. You didn't say that? What was this reference? I say so much, I forget what you're talking about. That does sound like a thing that some people would be interested in. Yep. He is. You see the interview, and he goes, "Furries are fun." They show that clip on Lord Rap to Jesus newscast all the time. Furries are fun. Louise Simonson is the only woman I want writing comics. Comics have become Hallmark novels. Yeah. I agree. Now the thing is about Hallmark is my wife watches them, and I love when she watches them. It relaxes her, puts her in a fun mood, and she knows that they're hokey, and she knows that they're recycled plots, but it's the comfort. It's the comfort and the wholesomeness that reassures her that and there's nothing wrong with that. And the thing about men is men don't invade the Hallmark world and demand a change to suit them. Men respect, okay, women like Hallmark. It's not for me. You like that. I like that. I like it because my wife likes it. You know what I mean? And my wife likes that I like comic books, and she doesn't insist to change. She's a normal, but I don't like all these women like, oh, we need female space marines. Oh, here you go. I don't want to play them. We just need them. Oh, about JDA. What do you want me to say? That's old lore. Imagine a whole bunch of protesters interfering with superheroes trying to stop. Oh, that's a good plot. Where's the human rights of the Red Skull? Furries are not fun. They're weirdos. Agreed. All right, let's get into the next page. Where am I? Oh, yeah. Okay. So Wasp is flying down into this guy's. Oh, let's clear that so we can see the. So this guy is running down the street. Yellow Jacket unties his shoelaces and ties them together and trips him. Boom. How did you get here so quickly? You might say you were bugged. And you're wondering if you got anything to hide. Come on, pal, speak up. Either you tell us what we want to know, or you'll tell us later. I'm not afraid. Perhaps we better let Wanda handle this, Yellow Jacket. This voodoo creep may be more impressed by the Scarlet Witch. I don't understand a word you're saying. In that case, friend, I'll explain. So she does her voodoo magic. Smoke surrounds the Scarlet Witch in a purple wreath, and when she speaks, she whispers in a voice inaudible to her fellow Avengers, although apparently not inaudible to the man before her. Listening, his eyes widen with terror, yet still the Scarlet Witch talks on. Until at last the man crumbles with fear, sobbing a three-worded answer. Le Mort Bayou! Le Mort Bayou! The words aren't much, but they'll do. So let's explain what happened here. Scarlet Witch picks up a piece of dirt, and the piece of dirt gives her the plot. They go to this piece of dirt says, go to New Orleans. It's zombie. I had a vision. She finds this guy, and the Avengers torture him for information. No warrant. Can you imagine going to a judge? Oh, I picked up a piece of dirt and I had a vision. This guy, he's about to become a billionaire. The Avengers tortured me. Where's Captain America over here? Where's my civil liberties? Note that they didn't draw. Oh, there's Captain America. Where's my civil liberties? You know, it's real fun to put it in a modern lens. You know, this is 1977. The Avengers just go torture people. Go torture that black guy. We just bust into the black bar, walk past all the white people, and torture the black guy. And he tells us to go to the Death Swamp. Dun, 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 the Death Swamp, because that's what Lamort Bayou means, right? No need to describe what happens next. After the Avengers deliver their prisoner to jail and return, why are they bringing him to jail? What did he do? What proof do they have? What proof? What did he do? I take my last sip of coffee. Ah, that's so good. He was playing pool. A piece of dirt. Told him, this guy, he's gonna have freaking. He better call Saul right now. You know what I mean? I'm just laughing at the implications of this. Someone should, tell the story of this guy who doesn't even have a name. You don't need a name. He's voodoo creep. Lamort Bayou, the Dead Swamp. Well, at least the name's appropriate. This place stinks like a charnel house. Cheer up. Things aren't as bad as they seem. Pretty soon we'll know who's behind this Wonder Man gag, and then you can relax. I think that Beast. And I love that. Just let the Beast carry the corpse. No matter what the outcome today, certain doors have been opened, which before were closed. There are questions which require answers. Questions I must ask myself concerning my immortal soul. Sure. Okay. I'm just laughing at this. Bust into the bar, guys minding their own business. They torture him, drop him off in jail, and the police are like, thanks, Avengers. What did you do? I was playing pool. I got like 40 people. Like, is it a crime to be part of a voodoo ritual? It's freedom of religion. This is so funny to me. It's so funny to me. There's no comments. Oh, only one comment. Hallmark needs more violence, hot chicks, and explosions. Yes, and war. So this always was funny to me when they got one page and then ads on one page. But there's neither the time or place for such speculations. Wanda, can you sense the presence of we speak? It's difficult, Vision, but there's so much hatred, so much evil. And I've only recently learned to use this part of my power, and it frightens me. So she has plot progression powers. That's Jean Grey, Scarlet Witch, Moondragon, Mantis, all of these mystical women, they have plot progression powers, and it's one of my main pet peeves. I'm worried that Mary Sue could deteriorate into a plot progression power person. So in my those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I have a comic book called Heroic Tales. It issue 2 debuts a superheroine named Mary Sue. So she has probability altering powers, but I don't want her to have plot progression powers or Deus Ex Machina powers, which is real easy to do. I want there to, if she does use the major aspect of her powers, I want you to see the repercussions. And she used it already in her debut, and I don't think people got what she did. If you read Heroic Tales 2, could you tell me in the chat what you think I'm talking about? I'm curious if people got what she did. I wonder if I didn't show it too well. May I remind you, Yellow Jacket, you're speaking to my wife. Please don't argue. Wait, something like a silent call, a silent voice calling. Isn't that a contradiction? What? Wonder Man, he's moving. I just don't like this Wanda. Like, she's just the walking plot. That's a great name for a comic. The Walking Plot. Put him down, Beast. If I'm right, it's the Zuvombi Master summoning him. You mean all that stuff you were telling me about guys bringing back from the dead is for real? Judge for yourself, Beast. Look, I'm coming, Master. Coming to your call. I don't know. This is just such bad storytelling. Like not storytelling, like storytelling in the fact that the panels are telling, but it's just a bad way to tell the story. No comments. Well, I'll just go to the next page. I guess I bored everybody with my rambling. And we got very special people. Human oddities. I don't know. This stuff freaks me out. This is just exploitation. But at the same time, it's like, what else are these people going to do? I don't know. I remember in high school, there was a carnival on Long Island. And I went to my friends. I was like, they're going to have a freak show. And he's like, oh, really? Let's go. Yeah. And we went. And it was just the worst. I'll never forget. They had this, like, the world's shortest lady, the world's tiny. She was just, like, you went in, you paid your money, and it was just a semicircle. And there was, like, what is the word? Like a convex shield, so you couldn't see until you were about halfway through. And then there was just this little black woman, like a grandmother, like this big, just knitting. And she had a little TV, and she wasn't making eye contact. She was just sitting there knitting, watching TV. And I remember my friend was like 4 or 5 people in front of me, and he saw her first, and he just went like this. And then I looked, and I was like, oh my God. Like, it just bothered me. It was just this woman was just like, she was not making eye contact. It wasn't pleasant for, and when we left, I was like, I couldn't deal with that. It just, oh man, it just really bothered me. He's like, I know. Like, it would have been one thing if she was just, hey, how you doing? What's your name? My name's Phyllis. How was everything? But she was just like, my life sucks. My life sucks. The things I got to do to make a buck. I was like, oh my God. And that was it. We saw one human out of the exhibit and left, and I never went back. Oh God. I feel like apologizing to her, a real life circus freak. Yeah. This was before I moved. So this must've been like 1990. I don't even know if they would do stuff like that anymore. Yeah. If I'd have gone to the Locksmithing Institute, I'd be rich now. Is that? Oh no, this is the LaSalle Extension University. Yeah. Okay, so Zach, she changed probabilities to change the past, possibly causing present circumstances. Yes, I was wondering if you knew exactly what she did. If anybody knows exactly what she did, and I mean it's going to be spelled out because I was like, okay, I need to spell it out better in issue number 3. So I'm just curious if anybody knows exactly what she did, because it's like the Sixth Sense. I thought it was so obvious. I thought it was just, it's like, dude, look, it's right there, a couple of pages beforehand, and then the last page, it's obvious. And like most people are like, what are you talking about? And then I pointed out, like, oh, I missed it. So I just wondered, like, is it a failure on the writing? I don't know. I can't help but think that. So anybody know exactly what Mary Sue did? All right, so let's go back to this. Better speak softly. I see a fire up ahead. People dancing. It's the ritual Wanda told us about. The ceremony of the voodoo spirits called Loa. Your guess is as good as mine, Beast. We wanted to discover who was responsible for the Simon Williams resurrection, and it seems we have. What are the odds that they show up just as... This is another one of my writing pet peeves. And I know why they do it. It saves time. But it just bothers me. Like we all have seen the Harry Potter movie when Harry Potter puts on the invisibility cloak, and then he walks into the 3 broomsticks cafe. Just as McGonagall and Cornelius Fudge are talking about what's his name, Cyrus Black, and what he did. What are the odds? What are the odds that he puts on the invisibility cloak and just happens to eavesdrop on the very thing he needs to know? That's some, if he drank Felicitas Fluck Potion, I would understand it. That's magic, but what are the odds that you're like, I'm going to sneak into the closet. And then you sneak into the closet, and then they come in, and they just happen to be talking about what you needed to know. And it happens all the time. So the Avengers just go to Louisiana right as there's a voodoo ritual. Now, how would you have rewritten this? Dave Brink, what would you have done to get this plot done? Like, again, I would have had. They got geniuses on the team. They find the box from New Orleans. They go to New Orleans, and when they're in New Orleans, why did they send them the box in the first place? You know what I mean? So they get to New Orleans. They bring Wonder Man, and as he's in New Orleans, all of a sudden he wakes up because now he can hear the voodoo drums, and then he just starts, and they follow him. You know what I mean? And then he stops and collapses. And they're like, oh, he was walking in this direction. Maybe then they triangulate and they see like an empty voodoo ritual, and they stake it out. And then they see the voodoo priest, and then like Weekend at Bernie's, he gets up again and stuff. Something like that. That I could see working rather than Scarlet Witch just has magic powers and explains everything, and it just so happens and he shows up. So here we go. So now we got the voodoo guy. Unless I'm grossly out of line, the guy in the chicken suit is the leader of this. If there's anyone answers, I'll lay 5 to odds it's him. Bad news. Those dancers are crazy. At least it's a diverse crowd. They got some white chicks, some white guys too. And they dance, and all of a sudden the zombies are coming out of the ground. And Wonder Man joins it. Wonder Man, you're here? Your mission was in New York on request of he whom I serve. You dare disobey my commands, I who have assumed the name of the Black Talon. Getting the villain's name out is sometimes difficult. I'll accept this one. Prepare for destruction, fool. Those who fail must be punished by the fire which consumes all. The first Black talent appeared in Strange Tales 173. You've heard enough. Avengers attack. So now the Avengers are just attacking regular people practicing their religion. These are the anti-due process Avengers. They attack. Boom. Just beating the crap out of these people. Jumping around. Iron Man's punching people. Everybody's in their underwear. In a way, I pity these poor voodoo freaks. 7 angry Avengers against only 30 of them. They may never know what hit them. And let's check out hey, we got Georgina Floyd. So beautiful, you can't breathe. So beautiful, you can't breathe. Georgina Floyd. There we go. Maybe a panel of investigation. Yeah, exactly. One page of, and I think it would work. A scientific investigation brings them to magic. I don't know. Punishing the zombies. Well, they're punishing the people who are practicing their freedom of religion. That's what they're doing right now. I mean, they did send Wonder Man to mess with the Avengers. Yeah, they sent them, but why? Why did they send him there? You know what I mean? It's just, here's a package. It's such an awkward way of telling a story. Don't worry, it gets better and better and better. But as a kid, I didn't realize how disconnected and ham-fisted this plot was. But it's still great. Wonder Man's back. He's a zombie. We got this black cock villain, and now the Avengers are beating up zombie. We just saw Live and Let Die. We all know that the zombie voodoo people are up to no good. So it's okay to just mess with their civil liberties. Never fails. Whenever hippies get together for a party, the man comes and lays the smackdown. There you go. Smackdown's a good name for a superhero, huh? Like a rogue cop. I am Smackdown. I'm here to lay down the smackdown. There you go, Dave. All yours. Smackdown. Want to learn karate? 50 years old? Get stamps. There you go. 10%, 10 cents off any icy. Where can you go? The coldest drink. Mr. Dealer. Where? I don't even know. Where can I redeem this? So now we got this red-skinned creature is too frightened to move. Soon he won't need to move. Soon he'll be dead. And honestly, at this point, they could claim self-defense, right? We're just dancing around a fire. And these Avengers, anti-religious bigots just came and attacked us. You know, why should I move, human, when I can control my body's density to make myself as hard as a diamond or wrath-like like a ghost? I always thought that density control is such a cool power. And yes, I already wrote the story of my density control hero. I had to change her name at the last minute, and it irked me because Capes has a here. I have a. She's the daughter of my boxing superhero, whose name I'm not going to reveal yet, and her name was Knockout. And now Capes, Robert Kirkman's new comic, has a girl boxing superhero named Knockout. So I had to change her name, and the new name I came up with kind of like it better. It fits her name better. So it's a little. I had a little bit of problem, got annoyed, changed the name, and now I'm happier with the name change. So a little art through adversity. So boom. So these two people just come running. I don't understand the technique of their fighting. They got swords, and then they just run head first. Like I don't know, if I'm running up to stab somebody, I'm not just gonna run with my head and stab and leave with my head. But whatever. Maybe they slipped in the mud. And now she's using her powers the way I think they should work. Vines just happen to entangle them. You know, it's bad luck. The improbable happens, not the impossible. And then Black Talon is getting attacked by the Wasp and Yellow Jacket. They're hitting him with stun beams and flying around him. You know, accursed insects, you'll learn the folly of mocking Black Talon. I can summon forces beyond the reach of human understanding. I will call the spirits of the Loa, as well as the serpent god himself, Damballa. So then we got ominous eyes appearing, and ominous eyes, magic power, boom. Something so evil, its presence is like a physical blow. As one, the heroes fall, because the plot requires them to be defeated right now. Oh, sainted mother, I feel like I'm being stepped on by some sort of giant, and it's crushing me. It's wiping out everyone, including all the voodoo types. We can't. Well, I guess it hasn't affected everyone after all. Who does he mean? What does he know? We'll know after the comments. Scottish martial arts is headbutting. I don't know if you're joking or if that's like a thing in Scotland. I don't know, but kind of funny. So let's turn the page. Oh no. We got Jack Kirby's 2001. As far as I know, Marcus, back me up or whatever, was 2001 the comic that was promised to Jack Kirby and brought him back to Marvel? Like, was that, did Eternals come out before this? I forget the exact order, but we got words from Stan Lee, and then in-house news about Marvel. I love this stuff. It made you feel like, I hate this word, but it made you feel like part of a community. You know, like this was the oddball club of all the comic book collectors, and we knew these people. It was fun. And then we got some Twinkies and cupcakes with baseball cards. How American can you get? You know, baseball, cupcakes, Twinkies. Let's go to the next page. So everybody but Scarlet Witch, the walking plot device. Woman, how can you be standing? I'm called the Scarlet Witch, Black Talon. Does not give you an answer? It apparently does. You're a sorceress. And so you should be treated with special care. Thus, boom, freaking lightning bolt. Hit her right in the boobs. You're strong, Black Talon, but your power comes from another, while my strength comes from within. Little point of order. Words have meaning. He's calling her a sorceress, meaning, in my mind, and I understand I'm the crazy person here, so don't, you know, you could disagree with me, but don't take it personal. But if you're a sorceress or a sorcerer, to me, that implies you're using power from a source. And the source is external to you. So she says, my powers come from within, so she can't be a sorceress. Does that make sense? Like, so in my thinking, my way of thinking, a sorcerer uses a source. That source being a deity, an object, another dimension, or whatever. But sorcerer uses external forces to power their abilities. Or a magus or a wizard would use, I don't know. A wizard is a catch-all term for a million types of, but if you have internal powers, I don't know, like you're not sorcerer. Like, what is the word for that? Like, you know, a mutant. That it's intrinsic to you. All the more reason why only I could triumph. Which mine is the might of Damballa. The dark god cannot be defeated by the likes of you. So now we see the hand, lightning bolt. He's right. I don't know if I could summon enough power. I can't fight a dark god. Dark god. So in one liquid motion, the Scarlet Witch leaps to her feet and heaves a burning ember towards the glowing eyes, which watch, and the flame sears the darkness, ensorcering the demon. Wanda strikes. I may not have a god to aid me, but I do have certain abilities born not so much of magic as mutant control over the forms of her. Yeah, so now she's saying she's a mutant. She's all over the place, Wanda. That's the power to have to face without. That's the power I have to face your dark god without doing that. That's the power to defeat you. Wood, tree branches, stumps, all hitting me. I can't fight back. So now everybody leaves. So she throws fire at the dark god. Now, if I was writing this comic, and I'm not saying I'm better than Jerry Conway, but so I would have her kick some of the embers into the face, and then she uses the mutant power to improbably make them a big glowing fire and summoning a bunch of light that banishes the dark god. You know what I mean? That's what I would have done. And then the fire would have, she's still using it, but the fire would have burnt leaves and stuff like that would have fell on him, causing everybody to leave. That's what I would have done. And now all the Avengers like, oh, wow, Black Talon knows nothing. Wonder Man was brought to him by his servants already alive. So they already, with one message from someone, the one who will serve. That's just dandy. No, Iron Man, this is not we, at least. Not this. I'm not coming back with you, and I won't be back for a while. Is something wrong, Wanda? It's yes, darling, with me. Because my self-knowledge is incomplete, I almost lost a battle tonight. And that's something I have to think about alone. Then God be with you, dog. God be with. So now she quits the team for some introspection. This whole thing was a waste of time. The Black Talon turned out the only thing he knew about a Wonder Man was his master sent him. So they just came and interrupted a religious ceremony. As far as I know, nothing illegal is being done. Is it illegal to create zombies? I don't know. I don't know if that's on the books. You know what I mean? So the Avengers just came in, assaulted a guy, tortured him, went down, broke up a magic. This is no different than going into a church like Antifa, attacking somebody in the middle. And then turned out it was all wrong information. And now she's got to leave. She leaves. There you go. You know what I mean? But whatever. PB says, when I was a kid, there used to be a carnival in Nassau Coliseum parking lot. Yeah, I remember that. It's from a movie. So I married an axe murderer. Oh, Scottish martial arts. It's okay. 2001 was first. Okay, good. Memory is not addled yet. That's the theme of today's episodes. Words have meaning. Their purpose is to communicate while manipulating. Yes. I say that all the time. It's one of my common retorts in Twitter when people argue. Words have meaning. I understand if you misuse a word. I do it myself. We all do it. But words are there to convey information, to describe reality. If you're using words to confuse reality, you're shifty. There's no other way to explain it. John, like Doctor Strange, great point. All right. It's very rare that you agree with me, so thank you. Thanks for the backup. That means a lot. Doctor Strange Doctor Strange is a sorcerer. He uses the powers of the Vishanti. He calls forth the Satarak. You know what I mean? Doctor Strange doesn't have any internal magic powers. Even the amulet, that is a source. It's got, you know what I mean? Doctor Strange is a source. Or Gandalf, he's using his intrinsic power as a Maya, as basically a Tolkien angel to do his things. You know what I mean? So he's just impressing upon his will on people. So he's not a sorcerer. Although ultimately all power comes from Iluvatar, you know what I mean? But you understand what I'm saying. Wanda is multi-classing. Yes, she's now a mutant sorceress. No public indecency in the Death Swamp. They weren't naked. You're allowed to wear loincloths. No, they as far as I know, they didn't do anything wrong. You can, the sheiks carry ceremonial daggers. They were carrying ceremonial daggers. Like, I didn't see anything illegal in the swamp. You know, sorcery has to do with determining fate or the future. So I have no idea why he would call her sorcerer. She's more like a magician. Uh, Divination has anything to do with determining fate or the future. Divination, that's the type of magic. I subscribe to the circles of magic of D&D: divination, evocation, alteration, enchantment, necromancy, abjuration, and conjuration. Those, D&D has one more, illusion, but I folded illusion into enchantment. So I have 7 circles of magic, and that why? Because of the 7 spheres of Solomon, the 7 circles of Solomon, 7 keys of Solomon. So to me, 7's a better magical number than 8. But D&D has eight spheres of magic. But a sorcerer taps an external source. A magician is just a catch-all phrase for anybody who uses magic. A warlock is literally, the etymology of the word warlock means oath breaker. So a warlock is a sorcerer who made a deal with a source, a demon, an angel, a deity, an extraplanular, whatever, and then got the power and then broke the deal. That's to me a warlock. And these are my rules. So it's no point in arguing with me because these are my rules. And a magician is just a catch-all phrase for anything of these types of, and there's different types of magic. There's logomancy, which to me is the like reading spells and using words and stuff like that. There's I could get geomancy, tapping the earth, which is a type of sorcery. Why did the MCU make Mystique naked? In the comics, she always wore clothes. I think, good point. Now, were the clothes part of her transformation? Because the clothes change with her. So I always thought that Mystique was naked, but she used her transformation to make it simulate clothes. Otherwise, when she transformed, her clothes would rip, tear, but her clothes change, meaning that her clothes are part of her transformation. So they're not really there. She's literally naked all the time. Unless you want to say that she's wearing, unstable molecules that change with her, which, it's Marvel Comics. You could say that, why not? There's nothing that contradicts that. Oh, so the living laser, we got this Revolutionary War comics. Here's the back cover. I love this Jack Martin art. And there's the cover. Yeah, we don't know if there are any laws against summoning vague forces of evil. It was arguably self-defense. Yeah. I am of the opinion that the Avengers were completely in the wrong in this entire issue. Legally, everybody involved, this voodoo death cult, they got themselves a hell of a lawsuit. Georgina Floyd, are you joining this death? I can see Georgina in there just walking down the street, breathtaking beauty, and then all of a sudden assaulted by the Avengers. Isn't it tomato, sorcerer, magician? Yeah, I know. This is nitpicky stuff that I love. Yeah. You're absolutely right. This is nitpicky stuff, but you're talking to comic book D&D fans. I would say that comic book fans are pretty nitpicky, but man, D&D guys who are really old school lore, that is nitpick. But this is the kind of nitpick that I like. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Take 2 steps back and it doesn't make a difference. But it does make a difference if you want to write a story to keep the internal logic consistent. Now, if I was to write a story about, I don't need to shake this to make everybody nauseous, about a sorcerer, you don't need to know all the background gears and but the way I tell the story, I would have the sorcerer behave different than, say, a mutant. You know what I mean? They're both achieving the same thing, pointing and shooting lasers. You know what I mean? But and to me, that would make the story better because it's otherwise you just have the Scarlet Witch over here who just progresses a plot. Again, so when I any character that you've seen in my comic books, which isn't a lot at this point, only 2 issues, they have sheets written up with numbers and stats, and I put them on the cards so that you could check me. And RJ for the Fourth Age kind of did the same thing with his characters, so you could see their powers. And I think that limitation makes for better stories. And you can call me on it. Many people have, and they're all right. I'm trying, but we know the Vision's powers. So if all of a sudden the Vision just turns into ice and shoots ice rays at people, like that's not the way it works. Like, doesn't it take you out of the story when all of a sudden Cyclops' eye beams melt stuff? He doesn't have heat rays. He has force concussion. And because of that, you could tell cool stories like Captain America's shield. When the Marvel Universe explained how Captain America's shield works, John Byrne extrapolated some really cool effects for the shield that made it fun. I love that kind of stuff. I love that kind of stuff. I'm a bit slow to me. Anime is just a fancy term for anime. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Anime to me just means cartoons from Japan. I don't know. Like I can't tell the difference between cartoons from China, Japan, or Korea. But people who are into that stuff, they know, and they can nitpick. And good for them. That's their passion. Okay, nitpick away. Yeah, I'm not nitpicking to be mean, but so let me ask you, am I nitpicking this story too much? Is this just poor? This is a poor way to tell a story, in my opinion. And but it worked, man. I loved everything about this comic. This was literally, it's funny because I took it out last night. I took a picture of it to put it on Twitter for a promo for today. And then I put the comic back in the bag and board. And my wife goes, aren't you going to read it for tomorrow? I said, no, I read it a million times as a kid. I actually have like 4 copies of this. This might even be the one I got off the newsstand because you can see kind of wrinkles over here in the corner. A couple of them I got in collections. But it all came back to me once I was looking at it. Back then, my brain was like a steel trap, But looking at it now, I saw the flaws for the first time. That was just the worst. Pick up a piece of dirt. Magic powers told me everything. And that is why a lot of people don't like magic characters, because they just do whatever the plot requires. That's like vaguely defined powers is not good. It's not good. Now, I have already characters that I don't want to spoil that you don't know all their powers yet, And I like to think the sudden revelation of this power will make sense because I'm hoping that I lead up to it in a way so that when it happens, it's not just Deus Machina, this guy pulls it out. And because of this power that this character doesn't even know he has yet, and I'm being vague on purpose, I'm sure you all understand, that's going to open up a whole vista of stories and explanations, you know what I mean? But this power, I think it's such a unique power. As far as I know, no other superhero has this power. And I can't wait to explore it. And he doesn't even know he has it. Oh, I just gave it away that it's a he. Oh, well. All right. Okay, nitpick away. Yeah, it's fun nitpick. It's also, keep in mind, I love this comic. When I nitpick little decisions that Chris Claremont makes, we got to move away from this thing where criticism means bad. Like, this is all done with love. I absolutely love these comics. I absolutely love this era of comics. I love the art of this comic. Yeah, me too. I criticize John Buscema, but you know how I love John Buscema. Like this piece of art. Just I don't like it. That's the Quinjet. How does that land? And then where is this? That's just a flying boat. That is so lazy. We all know at this point it's established what the Quinjet looks like. You know, so what's going on? What's going on? I love that purple vest with the green shirt. You know, it's just it's just so comic book. It's just so comic book. With great art. The story is there to deconstruct once it's print. You can't take it back. Yeah, I just think it was sloppy. It you know, if I was the editor, I'd be like, no, you got to rewrite this. You got to rewrite this. I know it's written for children, but you got to rewrite this. You know, and I would be like, just they're Avengers. They can't figure out a big freaking box came from Louisiana. How did it get there? You know, did it go through a courier? Did a rocket ship drop it off? There's no way to track how a box got there other than Magic Rock told me. You know, they invented a whole bunch of powers for the Scarlet Witch, and then for no reason whatsoever, she quits at the end. They just made a big deal about her joining or rejoining or re-upping her membership, and then she quits by the end. It's just it's real sloppy, but there you go. It's still fun. Just because I'm criticizing doesn't mean I hate it. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it could have been done better. And that's like I was just talking with Marcus Kellergrew last night. I forget if we talked about it live or if we talked about it before we went live, but I was saying Mark, is it Mike Partika did a real nitpicky criticism of Heroic Tales #1, and man, was it nitpicky. But I couldn't disagree with anything he said, and he ended up liking my comic. He gave it a pretty decent score, but he nitpicked, and I'm a nitpicker, and man, did this guy nitpick my comic. So you could go on. Mark, maybe Marcus, if you're still here, you can put a link to the. I didn't get mad. I didn't get upset, and I commented a lot, going back and forth, and one of the things I said, and I'm 100% honest, is you gave me something to think about. He picked up something that I didn't realize, didn't plan, and didn't mean to do, but it's a good idea. You know, so maybe it's something I will address later on in the book, and then claim that I've always meant it. Yeah, of course I always meant it. Yeah, but it's nitpicking. My wife I drive her crazy when we watch movies. You know, we watch the movie. What do you think? It was really good. You ready for the nitpicks? Okay. So, what do you guys think? Are we done? Are we done here? 2 hours? Wow, 2 hours. So there you go. Tomorrow I will be I was just about to end, and then another comment. So that's the way I do it. When the comments die, I'll stay live for 12 hours if the comments keep coming. But not 12 hours. I gotta go to the empanada party. What do you say? Because of Captain America, the Avengers get pretty political. Let's see if the issues that come out are still issues today. Yeah. The Captain America comic dealt more with politics than the Avengers. Issue 180 is very political and very applicable to today. But from 153 to 180, I'm really struggling to think if there's any politics in the comic. Maybe there will be. I just don't remember. But we'll see. But the 180 is the next time it's explicitly political. What takes me out is magic characters who have powers but need ingredients and hours for certain remedies. Oh, you're gonna hate the metaphysician because he's firmly created with D&D in mind. He needs to prepare. He needs reagents or components to do his magic. You know, and to me, that's a good way to limit him. You know, and his abilities. And how does he bring these components into battle? How does he prep these spells? You know, I want to make him a D&D wizard in a superhero comic book. And I hope you'll see. Come back and tell me if I did it well. Mike Partika is a failed comic guy. Never take that guy seriously. I honestly didn't know who he was until somebody, Student of God, sent me a link that he made a video. So I don't know anything about him. I don't know if he hates me, loves me, whatever, indifferent. I don't know anything about the guy other than he did a video that I can't really disagree with. I think there's a couple of things that he touched on that I didn't mention in my response because they're plot points. You know what I mean? So he's like, "Why did this happen?" I don't want to point it out. I don't want to point it out. He literally picked up something that it's a long term thing, and I can't even mention it because even mentioning it is going to ruin a plot point. So I just didn't. So, oh, Dave is leaving. See you tomorrow. Enjoy the empanadas. And you too, Dave. Oh, that's not Dave. I just thought it was Dave Brink. Old man eyes. I'm the pro. I'm the pro. The most powerful resource for scientists, wizards, and detectives is prep time. Absolutely. And that is another one of my pet peeves that only Batman gets to prepare. You know, Ben Grimm ain't stupid. If Ben Grimm knows what's going to happen and he got a week to prepare, he's beating Batman. You know, yeah, I'll give it to Batman that if Ben Grimm has prep time and Batman has prep time, Batman's winning. But if Ben Grimm has prep time and Batman doesn't, Batman's toast. Okay, but if a magic guy uses ingredients, that's my whole point. Is you got to be consistency is the key. You're absolutely 100%. Like if Doctor Strange, one of the things I do like about Doctor Strange is he has a pretty consistent spell book. You know, the Crimson Bands of Sadarak, the amulet that does a definitive power, although sometimes it doesn't. You know what I mean? But for the most part, Doctor Strange, and that's, believe it or not, due to a fan, Cat Ironwood. She was a teenage girl in the 60s, and she loved Ditko's. She loved Dick. I just realized I said she loved Ditko's Doctor Strange, and she wrote the Book of Vishanti and mailed it to Marvel Comics. She was just a fan, and Marvel Comics loved the insight and everything like that. That they used it as a Bible, and you could look it up. Ironwood's Book of Vishanti. You know, and it kept Doctor Strange consistent, whereas Doctor Fate just does whatever Doctor Fate needed to do. Mike Party Pooper, like I said, I don't know the guy from. It's funny because I recognize the name from my backer list. You know, I don't think I'm being. You know, when you buy my comic book, you put in your name and address. So I'm starting. You know, after 2 campaigns, there's some names that I recognize. Oh, look, you know, whatever. And a lot of people put in their phone number. I've called people. Hey, which cover do you want? You didn't put down which cover you wanted. You know, so I want to make it for my next. Well, the next campaign is going to be King Fu. It's going to be one version of the comic. Do you want the add-on? That's it. Simple, fast. Let's get this. You know, this is all about speed. But like when I do Heroic Tales 3, do you want Heroic Tales 1? Do you want Heroic Tales 2? Do you want a bundle? There's a bunch of different covers. You know, so I got to make little subgroups. It's going to be a little complicated. You know what I mean? But sometimes, like there was one of the you could order, and I didn't know which version of the cover you wanted, so I literally was calling people. Hey, this is John from. Well, I was texting. I don't want to call people, you know. But yeah, so I recognized the name from buying the comic. But like I said, he did a. I don't know anything about the guy other than he bought my comic and he made, I thought, a pretty fair review. Every story has plot holes. I think it's how big, how many, and is the story good overall. The Bible has plot holes that my particular. Yeah, I don't know if he's a miserable guy. Again, I don't know. I never heard of the guy other than I recognize the name from my buyer's list and I recognize the names from the review. And there you go. And it's funny because I kind of have a feeling that he's a CG guy because a couple of guys in his comments had negative things to say about me. And to his defense, he stepped up and said, "No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true." You know, and then I responded, "Hey, thanks for the review. You know, for the most part, I agree with everything he's." And then a couple of people were like, "Hey, John took it on the chin. He's not that bad of a guy." I gotta say, my most negative review for Heroic Tales 2 was by Katie did, and she just did it because that's who she is. And even I was great. I was like, "Hey, thanks, Katie. You're not wrong," and she wasn't wrong. She just over exaggerated it. And I also think she misunderstood when I said Bronze Age comics. She meant that as children's comics. So when I had that shocking reveal about the suit, the photograph, she was rightfully disturbed, and I don't blame her. She's absolutely right. First off, that's her feelings, that she's, whatever. That picture was so disturbing, I almost cut the story, and I was like, I can't start all over again. So so yeah, I can't. It worked. It worked so well. I'm gonna get mad at her, but she misinterpreted. She thought the comic was supposed to be for children, and it's obviously not for children. It's for all ages, meaning adults, and then you determine. She's like, I can't give this to my kids to read. Good, it's a disturbing comic. So I didn't disagree with what she said. I just disagree with her personally. My particular nitpick: why you spelled Mary Sue that way? He didn't. He didn't. He understood why, because he that's a nitpick that he didn't pick. Or maybe he will. That's an issue too. Maybe he will. But Sue, SU, is a legit Chinese name. I looked it up. Why didn't you use an E? Why no hyphen? Hair color? He's just miserable. His life is, he's hardcore. Yeah, I figured that out. Katie died. That makes me giggle. So, but I don't want to get into drama. I don't want to get into drama. He's a hardcore EBS fanboy. Don't be fooled. I'm not fooled. I literally know. See, this is all I know about him. I bought my comic. He did a review. That's really the only 2 times I heard the name. And I thought his review was kind of fair. So if he was slamming me, he didn't do a good job. He didn't do a good job. I'm kind of curious now to see, because in the comments people are like, review Godlike. That to me will be the fact that he hasn't reviewed Godlike is kind of telling, because I think he wants to be as honest as possible, and there's no way on God's earth you could give that a good review. So I'm gonna go now. You got me curious. I'm gonna go and see his other reviews. What does he do? What? But I can't complain. I can't complain. So what do you want to say? Anything? Bueller? Man, am I hungry? Now here's the real important question. It's 12:30. Do I eat now, or do I stay hungry and devour the empanadas at 5:00? That's the important stuff. That's real life. Is there anything I want to talk about? 3/4 of the way through the book, The Scarlet Pimpernel. I only read it at work at lunchtime. So, I read it in 20-minute bursts a day, and I'm a very slow reader. I was reading this book. Look how beat up it is. This was my last workbook, and my backpack got destroyed. So I took everything out of my backpack. I tried to fix the zipper, but I couldn't fix the zipper. So I bought a new backpack, and I forgot to put this in, and I forgot about this book. But this book getting all beat up just drives me nuts. And that's why I bought like a sleeve to put my book in. So the Scarlet Pimpernel is in mint condition because I put it in the sleeve, I read it, put it back in the sleeve. So I gotta finish. I forgot I was reading this, and it drives me nuts to have a book that I just didn't finish reading, and I went on to the next book. I never do that, so I gotta get back to Flashman in Charge, and they're both like, old war stories. The Scarlet Pimpernel is during the French Revolution, and the Flashman in Charge is during the Crimean War. Always go to a meal hungry. Yeah, it makes no sense to go stuffed, right? I will say, you guys, here's some disgusting inside information that you don't need to know. So this new job, I was working at one of the airports for 12 years. It's finally done. And I went to another job. And this job, I'm going a different way. Obviously, it's a different location. So I pass a strip of fast food places right before I get on the highway to go home. So I was like, oh man, I haven't been to an Arby's in so long. So Thursday, I went to Arby's, and I was like, they got burgers at Arby's now? Arby's always had roast beef. So I got one of their burgers. It was gross. Worst burger I ever had. Arby's burger is pressed, fatty, gross meat, but I had to finish it because you don't throw away food. So I was so mad, and then I'm passing by Arby's again. I don't want to be mad at Arby's. So I went and I got a roast beef. No, so on the way home on the highway, eating a burger, Way home in the highway, eating Arby's roast beef. Such a disgusting slob. Hunger is the best seasoning. I agree. I agree. Hey, Renowned Zero is here. How you doing? I mean, Mike Vartika said the Inglorious Rex is better written than anything the Soka sisters could write, and then Shane Davis believes he's a better writer than Chuck Dick. Well, I don't know what whatever Shane Davis believes doesn't matter. You know, people believe that they changed their gender, and we all know it's not real. So whatever people believe is whatever people believe. Inglorious Rex, I didn't dislike. I liked Inglorious Rex. I also like Starlight Cats. My biggest problem with Starlight Cats is it's obviously a children's book, and children's book are not going to crowdfund comics. So it was the wrong platform for that comic. Should have been broken into 4 floppies and sold in the mainstream markets. It was a children's book. Crowdfunding is not for children's books. Children are not going to all of a sudden go to Kickstarter, find a book about magic cats, and then have $35 to buy the book about magic cats. For some reason, Shane Davis got absolutely livid when I said that. I thought it was a valid criticism, and I meant it as an improvement. Take Starlight Cats, break it up into 4 cheap issues, reprint it, somehow get it into comic book stores. Little kids will buy it. I meant that as a positive thing, you know. Inglorious Rex, that's for adults. It's not bad, but like Starlight Cats, it's Shane Davis sits at home, plays video games all day long, and all the plots for his comic books are video game plots. Inglorious Rex is Pikachu and Street Fighter. You know, Starlight Cats is Captain Planet. We got to collect the jewels. You know, it's Sonic the Hedgehog. Got to collect the jewels. Got to collect this. You know, I liked the secondary story about the Marines that left the city and went on a mission, and it turned out that they didn't know they were on a suicide mission. That one legit got me. I like that one. That was a better story. The side book, I really like that. Inglorious Rex, I have a big problem with the world building. It doesn't make sense, the world building. Like, I don't know if he plans on explaining it later on, but now I'm not willing to stick with it. Now, is it anything better than the Soka sisters? I never read anything that the Soka sisters could write. So I can't argue with this statement because I don't have enough information. People that I respect are really liking the Sokas. What would you recommend? If you know, I just put in an order for 7 Deadly Sinners, and then the Mighty Golden Patriot. Is that the name of the comic by Yellow Flash? I thought I backed it. I thought I backed it, and it turned out I didn't back it. You know, so I put that in, and I want to pick up the New Horseman, the new, all the Chuck Dixon books. So, you know, recommend something by the Soka sisters. I realized that I read their Black Widow miniseries by Marvel years ago, and I remember nothing about it, which is not a good sign, but don't take that any way, shape, or form, because there's a lot of comics that I don't remember. I'm sure if I was to open up the Black Widow and look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this story. I read Starlight Cats as a Power Rangers book. Yeah. It's a children's book, and there's nothing wrong with children's book. And I do think we should be making more children's comics. I have a couple of children's comics in mind, but you know, I'm one guy. You know, I need my comics to make more money before I could open up these venues. You know what I mean? Before I could do it. So right now, I'm just doing what I really, really, really want to do. I want to do children's books, but I really, really, really want to do what I'm doing right now. So unless I get more successful and more sales or whatever, which, you know, that's a pipe dream, I'm going to stick with what I really, really want to do. But I do commend anybody who's doing children's books. Now, Starlight Cats, crowdfunding is not the venue for children's books. Sorry. Why'd you get so mad when I said that? I didn't mean anything mean about it. Black Widow, No Restraints. Yeah, I have that. It's like a 4-issue series by Marvel. Yara and Bloodruth were written by the Sokas. Yeah, I didn't read Yara and Bloodruth. You know. Hey, hail the chat, Monomakis. How you doing? Something about that face just stares into my soul. Yeah. How you doing? How's everybody doing? So, there you go. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will continue with the Sunday comics. It'll be the next X-Men comic. I think it's the first appearance of Dazzler, if I'm correct. One of my favorite lines in all the comics. I know zilch about disco, but this girl's good. I don't know anything about what we're talking about, but I do know that this happens to be the best. I love when people say that. Like one of my friends, because I don't read comics, but this is the best comic book ever. I was like, really? You don't know anything about comics, but the one comic that you read just happened to be the best. It's one of my things. Anyway, so looks like this is the end. So I will. Usually on Sundays I give the menu of what's going on. So there you go. I could talk for the sake of talking, but this is 2.5 hours. All right, we'll say goodbye, kids.
Goodbye, kids.